What's all the Omnifuss about then?
That doesn't get old for me. I really enjoyed that. No. We were actually chatting a good bit there just before we went live, so I should just hit the live button and just continued on. But here we are here again. The aim of the show, the nightmare before Christmas. If you walk into Tesco's today, you'll find that the seasonal aisle has been stripped of all the pumpkins and Halloween stuff, and we've got the Christmas stuff. So I thought we'll just follow trend, do the same thing. We'll talk about scary reads and festive reads and get prepared for the big man in red coming in a few weeks.
Yes.
So yeah, this is what is all the Omnifuss about, and I tried to assemble as many people as I could. I mean, I asked about 50 people, but I mean, Martin asked 50 as well, and these three were the only ones who answered the call, unfortunately. But me and Martin are, of course, joined by Chris from Off My Shelves. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hello. That countdown. I got issues with that countdown.
It's scary. Is it the anxiety?
It gives you palpitations.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Why is it so scary?
It wakes me up a little bit. I keep meaning to change it, right? And Martin will laugh at this. I've been threatening to make an intro for this show for about 6 months, right? But the idea of sitting down and producing something is beyond me. I feel like I need to pay someone to do it for me.
Yeah, you enjoy procrastination. That's you.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite thing. But yeah, I will certainly think about changing it for the next live show. How's that?
Just something.
Don't say things like that.
Yeah, just something that isn't so intense. Maybe some nice music, not the
just like jingles. Yeah.
It's like more whimsical.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll see what I come up with. Who knows?
Okay.
Scott's good at jingles. Surely he'll come up with something.
Yeah. And we are joined as well by Highland G. How are you, G? I'm good.
Hi, I'm good. Yeah.
And we've got a new person to torture and hopefully not ruin his reputation by joining us. And it's Chris from Indie Comics Corner. Hi, Chris.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yeah, the intro, it felt like Squid Game was about to start or something. It was very intense.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, it was good. It was cool. Like the visual of it all looked great. It was just really scary.
I had no input in that visual, so the best thing about that intro has got nothing to do with me. In fact, the whole intro has nothing to do with me apart from just the wee picture I put together at the start. But that's neither here nor there.
We've instantly got another issue though that you've invited two Chris's.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to put this out there right now. I'm not going to be referred to as Big Chris or Little Chris because they imply two very different things that I'm not happy with. I'm not going to be Chris number 1 or 2.
No, because that's like bananas in pajamas.
Yeah. So you're going to have to come up with something.
I have Chris. I've written down actually. First of all, I wrote down Chris Wales, and then I wrote down Chris England. But I don't want to assume he's English. You could be Welsh.
I am. No, I'm English. Yeah, I'm English.
Welsh Chris and English Chris.
Yeah,
we're kind of covering a lot. We've also got Scotland represented as well, some Ireland, and even kind of north and south of England as well with me and Martin. So
yeah. Don't argue, guys.
Real Celtic kind of ensemble, isn't it? Really. But yeah, Chris, from England. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. I said before the intro, or before we went live, I wouldn't.
The very first thing you said to me, yeah, that's right.
Your mind straight away.
But I'm going to, but only because out of the goodness of my heart. Because if I was to describe, say, some of like Martin's collecting habits, like you know, he's DC. Obviously, he says he'll sell all his Marvel stuff. He's a DC guy. Likes the slabs and stuff too. He's very in covers. Highland G, a bit of everything, but I like the fact that Highland G puts a little green tape on books he hasn't read. He goes back and it annoys him so much he has to read those books. Chris, a bit of everything, and he loves ninja rabbits. So you can say rats there.
Ninja rat.
Yeah, ninja rabbits.
So does G, in fairness. You know?
I know, but like, yeah, but like you'd probably have them tattooed, or you would do if you could.
I have actually
booked a
tattoo for late this month, my first ever tattoo. But I'm not going to tell anyone what it is. I'll do a big unveiling. I'll do like a live stream with like 4 people where I'll have the countdown that you had.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, but slowly
it's just a circle with 3 dots,
tattoo. Right? No, it's not. No.
Is it the channel logo?
No. No.
It's my portrait.
Is it Phil?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, it would be.
On one of my special places. I get that.
Oh, straight. Moving on, Chris from England. I really gotta stop saying Chris from England or English Chris. But what would be the thing that you would want people to know about your collecting habits? Is it a bit of everything? Is it you focusing on certain creators? I know you're kind of delved in a little bit of manga at the minute, but what's the thing that you like to kind of focus on?
I mean, yeah, mostly indie stuff. I've read a lot of DC and Marvel. I tend to read those digital if I'm going to read them, but collecting wise, it's a lot of Image, a lot of Dark Horse, a lot of Boom, and then a lot of stuff that I actually see Chris recommend on his channel. So that's part of why I got into manga, was seeing stuff like Vinland Saga. So yeah, bit of everything across the gambit with that stuff. I'm not like just superheroes or just whatever. But yeah, Usagi, I will say Usagi is definitely number one book for me as well. So
nice.
Yeah. We kind of use that to differentiate between Chris's.
Yeah, it's harder already, but yeah, don't Chris? He's a bad influence, Chris, and he does have a code for that website Sci-Fire, but it's no good. Just put this.
It's too long.
Yeah, it's too long. Yeah. If you do want to buy books from Sci-Fire, please use our code Airwaves.
Has my code got less letters off my shelves anyway? Yeah, it has. I would use that.
And you got the underscores.
No, they're gone. They're gone.
Oh wow! So you've
just
simplified.
all one word now. Yeah, after the last time I was like, right, no, I'm gonna get rid of the underscores.
What I really wanted to do, because I really like your little kind of drop down animation you have in your videos that appears. So I said to Scott, copy that please, but put our code in, because I just wanted to do it just to annoy you a little bit. He's like, no, we wouldn't do
it. That'd be good. That would be good. Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
And that's the thing. It's imitation, and imitation's a form of flattery. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Chris's top 2 comics are the same as my top 2. Hellboy and Usagi.
Yeah. Other than the Welsh English divide. And also I can't grow a beard, which you can.
Melts away. It'll come. Don't worry.
I don't know. It's been 35 years, and
a little bit more growing. You'll be all right.
I can try and.
We've got a couple of people in the chat here. Fuzzy Dunlop is here. He says he has no Omnis to fuss about. However, it's got to be more fun than watching the Agatha finale. I haven't watched it myself, and
I've really been enjoying it. I haven't seen the last 2 episodes, so that is a shame to hear.
I'm watching it with my wife, so that says a lot. Usually, she won't watch anything with me, Marvel, but we're watching Agatha, so
that's pretty good, though. That's good. That is because it's difficult when you share your household with anyone to get one program that you can both enjoy and sit through. So that's a good thing. That's a positive.
Yeah, well, for example, it's just that. Like me and my wife watched The Boys together. We've just finished season 3. We're so far behind because we don't get time to watch TV together.
Very different show to Agatha.
Yeah, right.
That's completely into the spectrum.
maybe if Agatha was like The Boys, it might have been a bit more popular. But I haven't watched it, and it's not because, well, it is. It's my own kind of like Disney Plus has burnt me down over the years. Like in terms of there's so many shows that were just rubbish and didn't hit the point they should have hit. The actual one I liked recently was the one, and it completely escapes me. It was the girl who couldn't hear.
Echo.
I thought that was great, but they dropped all that in one go, so you were able to binge it, so to speak. And I think it served it better. But the other Disney Plus shows I think have been rather poor, unfortunately.
I enjoyed Captain America: Winter Soldier though. I like Winter Soldier, so that's
I just don't think that shouldn't have been a series. I think should have kept those 2 characters for a movie.
We should have said
I know there's a movie coming, but I just feel like
I was just more interested in watching the Bucky stuff. Winter Soldier's a good character. The opening scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed the 2 of them, but yeah, a lot of the other stuff, it just, like I say, being a series, I think was just a bit too much.
Speaking of Bucky Barnes, Connie, who's watching, she does a lot of crocheting, and she can crochet you the kind of little symbol he has on his arm, the little black star, or the little whatever that was. So she crochets.
I don't need it. I've already got it.
She sent you?
No, I've just got it on my arm all the time.
Well, that's true. I forgot that. But she is a massive fan of that guy who plays him, who's rather ugly. What's his name?
Sebastian Shaw, isn't it?
Stan.
Sebastian Shaw is the X-Men character, isn't
yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, same guy.
I just don't think he's a good looking chap at all. Sorry, Connor. He's just. I mean, there's 5 handsome chaps here, and he's not in our league, to be honest. But yeah, let's move on to. Let's just move on to what we're here to talk about. And as I say, we I don't know how you guys are with mood reading, but I quite like the idea of reading horror books during spooky season. I still read them all year round. But when it comes like the week or 2 up to Halloween, I like to think, lights out, read a little book and see where it takes me. So I'm just going to go round. I don't know if Chris, if you're aware, we just go round, kind of talk about what we've read or books we recommend. So I'll just start with Martin. Have you read something? I know. Have you read?
I have. I wanted to finish the book I started
in 2021.
Ago. Yeah, it's work, and I keep saying every stream, work is killing me lately. But I made sure I put some time in for a Halloween read, and I finished volume 2 of DC versus Vampires. Strangely, I wasn't expecting much out of it, but you know what? I loved it. Obviously, being a DC fan, it carries on from the first volume, but it does split a little bit because you get a bit of a different change in writer. I think you got Rosenberg, I think his name is.
Rosenberg's involved, yeah, but
no, Tynion does the start of it, I think. Right. So he does the start of it, and you could tell because the actual first volume does wrap up an arc, and then the second volume does, it continues, but it separates into 3 different stories. But for me, I loved it because Green Arrow is such a forefront character through the whole series. It was interesting. It kept me going. After the first couple of issues, I felt it was going to fall off because when you can tell when there's a writer change in a book, you get that change the story and you think, oh no, we're going in a way I don't like now. And then he brought it back, and it actually left me at the end of it wanting more. So I'm now moving into the spin-off series before the new series comes out, which is World War V, I think it is. It's but yeah, it's all about obviously vampires, very much like Marvel Zombies and Deceased, where you've got vampires coming out and people are getting turned, and all of a sudden big DC characters are coming out as being vampires, and some of your big players are getting killed. I don't want to spoil it for too many people, but it's nice to see that some big characters are taken out very, very early, which makes you think, well, who's going to be the sort of the driving force of the story? And it is sort of your, I would say, sometimes B or C list characters that are the ones that are driving the story. And I think that's what kept me going.
Yeah, it's funny because I haven't read it, and the reason why I haven't is because I love Deceased, and I felt like it was too similar an idea. Obviously, it's vampires and one's like the zombie kind of techno-virus thing. But the idea that they kind of bring all these different characters, say C-list characters in, and utilize them, which is obviously a good thing to do, but I was worried it would just copy Deceased, literally to the T,
Yeah, I thought the same, but it didn't. It didn't, especially in the second volume. So as I say, it's split into 3 different stories because there was 3 different parts of the story that came into the big story at the end. So you had one story that was following sort of the Bat family, which is sort of, which was Damien, Batgirl, and Black Canary, sort of like the Gotham sort of side of things. Then you had Green Arrow going off doing his own thing, because he wasn't happy with a certain decision that was made, so he went off on his own story. And then you also had Black Manta. Black Manta. Can't remember, one of the Wonder Twins. Can't remember the name. Jania, one of the Wonder Twins, and Supergirl go off and do another arc. So it was very interesting how it all came in at the back of the story, but it left it in another cliffhanger, which I was expecting it to wrap the story up. So yeah, it's left me wanting more.
Maybe they've just left the door open, like I say, with Deceased. And funnily enough, my pick, I was going to talk about, was Deceased, was because it's the only thing I read this month. But I read the entire series, but it's finished. Like obviously there's a definitive end, so to speak, where maybe the DC versus what was the name of World War C or something?
There's DC vs Vampires, the main series, and then what I can gather on the second volume, there's another series called World at War, which is more with a little spin-off, so you can read it alongside volume 2. So I'm starting that now, but there's a new series being released as we speak called World War V or something.
Yeah, they're leaving it open for other people to kind of have a bit of fun with.
It was a Task Force C as well.
Yeah, it was alongside it, but was it linked or what, or was it a separate thing?
I don't know. It was like a Red Hood ran little backstory that was in the Batman books.
Was that part of this story though? Because I'm not sure if that was.
I don't know if it directly tied, but it was out at a similar time.
They came out, from what I remember, in single issues. They came out like alternate weeks or alternate bi-weekly. So it was like
because the Red Hood story wasn't referenced in the book in the first 2 volumes.
It
with
could just
the main
be that
story.
It was a similar theme at the time.
Yeah, possibly. Have you read this Highlands? Have you read it yourself?
No, because as I said to you before, I find that a lot of these things, although not the same story, are very similar stories. And anytime you have any big, either technological or virus-related thing that takes over, it's going to be a very similar thing. So like everything from Blackest Night to this has similar things where you take out the biggest sort of heroes first and the smaller heroes have to use their sort of ingenuities to sort of solve the problems. And I just find that when you like one, I don't really want to spoil that by reading 3 or 4 more. I like to kind of keep the one clear in my head.
This is why I went into this one open-minded, but kept my expectations very, very low. Because let's be honest, when we read Deceased before, Deceased was amazing. And I thought, is it going to hit the same level? I wouldn't say hit the same level as Deceased, the first volume, but it was enjoyable. It actually, the story, the angle they came from wasn't as generic as what I thought it was going to be and tie into Deceased. It's actually changed it a little bit.
Of Harley Quinn and Damien.
Yes, they are in it. They once you read volume 1, those are the 2 one-shots you read.
Yeah, I've read that
after. Yeah, so they're after volume 1. So in a way, you've sort of reading that one shot. You've actually
kind of get the idea of the
spoiled volume 1.
But
yeah, they were actually interesting. The Harley one was a bit hit and miss, but by the end of it, I enjoyed it, and it actually made sense in volume 2. So they're required reads for the story.
And they've got awesome covers.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was just looking at, because I haven't read it, and I was looking at all the artwork from it, and the artwork looks really nice. Like, it's some amazing kind of, covers and some amazing, splash pages of like Nightwing and Batman and stuff like that. Like, it looks really good art-wise. So, but obviously I can't speak to the story. I haven't read it.
I think Otto Schmidt, his name is, who's the main artist. He done the Green Arrow Rebirth series. He was the main artist on that. I've done all the covers for that. I love his art on Green Arrow. I love his Green Arrow style. So
I've read of his art. It was Hawkeye Freefall. It's like a 5-issue mini about 5 years or so ago. And the first time I seen his art, and actually he's like, for terms of like what's the right word? Kinetic energy, is that right? Like movement, like in terms of like the fight scenes. I thought he done some really well. But I've never seen him on anything else since. I didn't realize he was on Green Arrow. Is that the new Green Arrow stuff?
No, it's not the brand new stuff. It's the Rebirth.
Rebirth. Okay. I keep meaning to check out more of his stuff, so I might pick this. Is he the same artist throughout the whole series, or is it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So far, yeah.
Because with Deceased, it had the main artist Trevor Hairsine, I think it was called, in the main series, but then there were spin-off books that had different artists, and it just were never as good as the original type of thing. So it's good they keep people on board. What about the 2 Chris's? Have you guys read? Well, obviously Off My Shelves hasn't.
I've not. No, I've read Deceased, just the first volume, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was alright, but yeah, I've not checked out DC vs Vampires, but I might have to. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna be nice and polite and move down the thing, but now we've talked about Deceased a few times. I feel like I have to speak now because Deceased was what I was going to talk about. And I've read all of Deceased a couple of times now, and in this kind of reread, I missed out the last series of it. In this reread, I've realized it's not that good. Like the first book, the first one's really good. Like you have your kind of shocking scenes, people get killed and all the rest of it. But I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm not a fan of Tom Taylor anymore. Like, I loved his stuff, right? I know it's a big thing, but I feel like he lacks a little bit of substance. Like he hits the moments really well.
Now, can we go back in time to when old Phil there was thinking Tom Taylor was King Dong?
For a while, like I was a big fan of his, and I remember I wanted him to be on Superman book, and then he was on Superman book, and he was on Nightwing, but then I feel like they kind of lost their way in those kind of runs. But I've never read the Injustice stuff. I know Highland G, I think you've read that, but
Injustice, I mean, Injustice is a long run, but it does also kind of tail off. I think the first Omnibus is a nice big chunk if you want to just kind of read it.
But I feel like he hits moments well. Like, have we all read Deceased? Have we all read it?
You've already brought him down now, Phil. Why are we continuing this conversation? You've said he's shit.
I know, that's not what I'm saying, Chris. I'm saying...
I think Injustice is his best work, if that's what you want my opinion on.
There we go. Move on, Phil.
Okay. I still like Tom Taylor. I think I'm less... Like, he's just climbing down the rankings for me a little bit. There's people now a bit more above him.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Connie's saying. It's a very similar thing I feel with James Tynion and sort of Scott Snyder. They build a lot of big stories up, but they don't always cross that finishing line.
But that to me is always an issue, right? Is that some writers and some artists create such an amazing like story and world, but then mess up the end. But for me, a lot of the time, I don't mind if they screw up the end. It's the problem is if they screw up the end so significantly badly that it
or they keep dragging out the end and never actually finish it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always expect to like a journey more than an ending, because endings are shit, don't they? Really, they're not that fun.
They are, to be fair. Like another Tom Taylor book I quite liked at the time was one called Seven Secrets. Have you ever read it? And
perhaps I don't read anything by him, nothing, because you told me.
I've not read all of it. I've read part of it. I was always hoping that they were going to kind of collect it all together.
Yeah, hopefully they do. It's through Boom as well, so they should come out in those waste of money editions with the slipcase covers too. And I'll still buy it. Don't get me wrong, the Seven Secrets I enjoyed, and again, it relied on a lot of moments, like the kind of like emotional kind of pull on certain characters and what happens to them. But I feel like he didn't really land too well there either. You know, it just kind of felt like, I don't know, it just kind of.
Some books are about the journey though, like something like take like I Hate Fairyland, for instance. I love some of the moments in I Hate Fairyland, despite the fact that I know they've continued it since, but despite the fact that for me the end of the sort of first run wasn't the best ending in the world, the story going through was great. So
you've got the two ends of the internet there with Corny's comment and Fuzzy's comment. So Corny's nice, kind comment, you know. I always like an ending. Then Fuzzy, bringing it down.
I haven't been paying too much attention to the chat. Sorry, guys. Kevin had jumped in some point. Hi, Kevin. Kevin's going to be a thought bubble in a few weeks' time. So if you're going along, please go and check him out. Anyway, Tom Taylor, still good, just maybe not as on the high of a horse I was putting him on before, or high of a pedestal as I was putting him on before. So, but still,
he's better when he's not writing anything that's got canon or is history. If you give him something he can go off on his own and do his thing, he's fine.
The Netherlanders book.
I'm not sure.
It's like a Peter Pan world type thing, but it was like new kids that had become like basically the new Lost Boys.
I thought that Peter Pan's a Faust or something, wasn't it? Was that was like
that was like a World War one.
No,
or
no, that's
two
a much older book.
retelling?
This is much more recent. It was like a book for like kids size book digest sort of thing came out, and it was just called Netherlanders. Pretty sure that was him.
Well, it obviously done well because none of us know what book it is.
No, I've just checked. You are right. I've never heard of it, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're the target
It is the
audience,
thing.
but I like that kind of like youthful books sometimes. I just think that they're a bit different and don't really clog down with all the backstory. And
Well, Tom, if you're watching this, I still
Sorry.
like you. Yeah.
I still love you, Tom.
Yeah. So, Chris from Indie Comics Corner, I have your books written down here because you were kind enough to send them in advance. Take note, Chris and Highland G. But
What?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't know the rules. I didn't know. I'll send him it just in case.
No, this is that. I appreciate that because, like I say, I have every intentions every time I do this show of making slides. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It just really depends. One of the books you've got listed on here is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and it's something I have currently beside my bed. Currently trying to read it, but I'm just struggling to pick it up for no reason, fault of the book itself, but just for my own reasons. But tell us a little bit about it and why it's one of your picks.
Yeah, so Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, it is written and all the art is done by Patrick Horvath. And it is a story about a humanoid bear, an anthropomorphic bear, who lives in a small, sort of sweet, sleepy town in some version of America. And she is a hardware store owner by day, and then also a serial killer in her spare time. But she's been doing it for like 20 years, killed over 40 people, and she's avoided any suspicion by never killing people in her hometown. And she always leaves, goes to like the big city, and just randomly picks somebody. So there's no pattern, there's no MO. So she's been doing that successfully for 2 decades. And then one day in her small town, there is a murder, and it's put very much on public display. And she starts to realize the police are going to investigate this, and they might track down my killings because she does still bury her bodies in her nearby woods of her hometown. So she has to go on the hunt and try and kill the serial killer that's killing in the town before she gets found out. And it's really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's been talked about quite a lot the last few months. So much so that I was going to say breaking news on Comic Airways. It wasn't quite breaking news, but we did have a news segment where we announced that they will have a sequel to it, because IDW have their own horror imprint, isn't that right? Or dark story imprint or something.
They're pushing with it, aren't they?
Yeah, and Beneath the Trees, the sequel to it, which I can't remember what it's called, is going to be the kind of flagship story.
Yeah, Fuzzy says in the comments, but IDW Dark.
Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, I knew they were doing a sequel. I didn't know it was going to be in its own imprint. That's cool.
Yeah, they got their own imprint now. Just for because IDW were always that kind of publisher that had like Transformers. They've got the Turtles. They have Sonic. I think they had Sonic.
Yeah.
So
They had Transformers.
Yeah.
They don't have Transformers anymore.
That's true. So they've always had these IPs.
They?
Yeah. Whereas like maybe now, because they were in trouble for a while, weren't they?
They still are in trouble. They still are in trouble.
Especially with the logo update. That caused a lot of...
I like it.
I like it, but yeah, that caused a lot of conversation, we'll say.
See, we're going into this as well later on because I think one of the things that I thought about was the TMNT books, for example. There's a few more books of that series to go, and I think I have the new logo on it because it's going to mess up your collection of books.
How's that going to mess it up?
No, for some people, Chris, not, you know.
Where's the logo on the spine?
At the bottom.
It's at the bottom.
At the bottom.
I mean, I don't even remember. That's how important it is on the spine of the IDW like Turtles books.
I know.
I'd say more in the Sonic books it would normally be because it's quite chunky on the bottom of the Sonic books, and if they change that, it'll stand out. But on the Turtles ones,
I think on the Turtles ones though, where it's got orange in it now, unless it's an orange turtle book, if it's purple, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb, a big orange logo at the bottom.
Well, yeah, I mean they have to keep the color the same, surely. Like,
I got an idea to get around this because I've seen lots of people over the years moan about, spines not lining up or logos being different or this or that. Here's my revolutionary approach. Okay, you ready? None of you said anything. Are you
We're
ready?
ready.
Good.
I'm bracing myself.
No.
Ready for some sarcasm of some
This is
sort?
Gonna blow
than
your
the
mind.
intro was.
It's going to blow your mind.
Should I play the
Doesn't
music?
matter.
Should I play the music?
What's in the book?
Well, let's do it first, and we might go back. There's no one watching anyway, so we can go back.
I have 7 people watching, and it's
Oh,
not just my own family, you know.
Is that like your wife? Your kids? They're all on
Liam.
different devices
wife.
around the same house. I told my kids to watch Omnifuss as well.
Yeah, please don't swear.
G's girlfriend is in the other room watching. We know what's going on. Here's my revolutionary approach. Don't buy it. If it's gonna annoy you that much, if it's gonna destroy the enjoyment of having that story on your shelf, don't buy it. Simple.
So
I was expecting something more breakthrough than that. I was expecting like, put a sticky note over the bottom of it or something. Something.
Don't buy it. I mean,
buy it.
A sticky note's the height of modern technology. That's how we solve this problem.
I mean,
if not
to be
having
honest,
them in line, and if not having them as all the logos, the same logo, destroys it for you that much, then don't buy it. Because it's just going to annoy you.
It's more
but
important
I want
to have the story.
If you want the story, you got the story.
Yeah.
It's on it.
So this is the thing. So I bought so many older books at this point, especially when it comes to like the DC sort of thicker trades and stuff, where they change the logo constantly. That I've kind of just got used to it. Like it doesn't really matter.
I am like Socrates.
Like great Socrates, yeah.
Like, I think at first when you have like an absolutely perfect matching up shelf, if one thing kind of looks out of place, or you're used to having all your sort of Marvel omnibus and then you get one DC when it's a random color, I get how that would feel at first. But once you've got a bunch of indie books, a bunch of DC books, a bunch of like old prints, new prints, Wildstorm prints, like it doesn't really matter.
I know. I quite like books having that uniqueness. That's why I love the absolutes. Because you whack the absolutes on it, logos are all over the place. They're not lined. The designs are different, the fonts are different, the colors are different. Just get them out.
What's more annoying is if it's not the content, if it's like a Netflix picture or something on it, that would bug me.
Yeah,
like a movie theme kind of cover.
Yeah, it's not actually the art in the book kind of thing. It's just some complete new thing that's spun off from the book.
Well, I'm a DC collector. I got used to not having matching spines a long time ago. Like,
exactly.
Let's be honest. Anyone that collects DC Omnis, you know what I'm talking about.
Because like you look at those Power Rangers books behind you, Martin, and you've got the ones that have got all the white centers, and then they did 2 or 3 that don't have white centers.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I didn't
realize they did that.
The Go-Go ones.
It's the Go-Go's. They're like the differentiators between those ones. But listen, guys, I had a topic written down here. And it was DC Vertigo and how my annoyance are going to have Preacher Volumes 1 and 2, but Volume 3 is going to have the Vertigo label and not the Black label.
And Transmetropolitan still
Here we go.
as well.
Here we go. I love Chris. Has he had a drink? I love these animated. He's like,
I haven't had a drink.
Because like Transmetropolitan got reprinted as Vertigo for Volume 1, Black Label for Volume 2, then they done a further reprint of Volume 1 so that you can get it all as Black Label. But if it's switching back to Vertigo, 3 will get printed as Vertigo.
Well, I've got the DC logo on mine. I have that.
You've got to just give up at a certain point,
They're going to change the logo now, so it's
my
different Vertigo logo. Yeah.
Are we prepared?
Yes, go for it, please.
DC reprint. DC logo. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And then it lovely.
And then Volume 3. Screwing it all up. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but my point is, Volume 3 is no longer in print or in stock. So when they do restock it, it's going to be Vertigo on it.
No, it was Vertigo. They have reprinted it, and it's DC.
But what you're going to find is
because they're bringing back the Vertigo imprint, the further Black Label reprints will say Vertigo.
But again,
if it says the DC logo, it'd be the new DC logo, the Bullet logo.
Possibly that too.
But even that said, if you want all the logos, you can't get all the logos. You can get these in Vertigo.
Some of the creators have more of an input though, because like when you see the way that the Swamp Thing ones were done and all the little intricate details there, even though it did say Vertigo on the very first reprint, they were very meticulous to make those books look good together regardless.
They're some of my favourite ones I've got, I have to admit. The Swamp Thing, Alan Moore, absolutes.
I ended up getting a bit of mine because I'm not a fan of the way the story's done, but the books looks gorgeous. Like they're so well done.
I think the story, when you get further down the line, becomes a bit more abstract. I think Volume 1 is exceptionally strong, but then it does peter out a little bit.
It's just not a writing style that I enjoy.
Alan Moore's writing style, and it is...
Like, I tried. I read it.
Yeah. Alan Moore's writing style is never going to be to everyone's taste, because it is quite unique in the way he approaches his writing.
It's the same way, like, I enjoy Grant Morrison stuff, and a lot of people just don't get it.
Totally.
You know?
Well, it depends how many mushrooms Grant Morrison writing books, you know, because some of his books are actually okay, and some of his books are just completely out there.
See, I find a lot of the books people say are okay or just really bland. They're the books that you didn't try. Like,
that's the ones I like.
Me.
The ones where he's clearly on something. Or, like, what was the book we read, Martin, one time?
I'm just trying to think of that.
Nameless.
It was
Nameless.
That's it.
And
it was out there.
About the occult and all these different demons, and I was just.
I mean, he can make a wild story out of very little. I mean, like Joe the Barbarian is mental for a kid who just needs his medicine.
I read it.
But to return back to your other thing as well, Phil, the Vertigo line, there's no idea of how that's going to work yet, whether they will replace original Vertigo lines back under the new Vertigo line. Or
we don't know if Black Label disappears.
No idea.
Yeah, that's
no
true.
idea. So DC might stay, you know, Preacher, Swamp Thing, all of those might stay on the respective things they've changed to.
So it's like a legacy line for Black Label, and then new prints are in Vertigo, maybe.
I don't mind.
Black Label could just be like the not canonical, but it could still be DC owned things that are in a more dark space, whereas Vertigo is more the creator owned side of stuff.
Indie stuff,
which would make sense.
I am right in saying that they haven't said that anything is happening with Black Label. Have they?
No,
I
it's
don't think
staying.
so.
It's staying, I think.
Vertigo's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll almost look like the Elseworld stuff they used to do.
Yeah, Elseworld's come back as well. Now there's a few Elseworld books creeping its way back in again. They're actually called Elseworld books. So because they get rid of that and Vertigo at the same time, and Black Label kind of engulfed it all, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean the problem with Black Label was Black Label never really had somebody driving it looking for new creators. It was always just a way to label older stuff, really, and the occasional thing they felt like doing.
It did go that way in the end.
They brought new stuff out, to be fair. Then
they done like a launch window thing, but they didn't have
down.
Like a constant person driving that in the way that they did with the sort of British invasion of original Vertigo type stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's because, if I remember rightly, didn't Vertigo, when people actually made titles of Vertigo, they owned the rights for it?
Not necessarily. It was a mixture of different agreements.
Yeah,
there was lots of different contracts going on. Like,
I mean, that's what it was. They had that scope to negotiate the kind of ownership and stuff. Whereas, like DC, it's like, no, they're ours. They're our characters.
Yeah, I think Marvel's Icon was more completely sort of creator-owned stuff, whereas DC's Vertigo could be owned by DC.
And if you look at, I'm sure Swamp Thing didn't start at Vertigo, if I'm remembering it right. I'm sure it went to Vertigo when Vertigo came out, but I'm sure it predated Vertigo.
I think the single issues were before Vertigo, the first few.
So they kind of moved stuff onto that, depending on thematically if it fit in, like,
or if it connected to the DC universe. I think as well, because like Sleeper and stuff was tied to.
Vertigo. Yeah, Hitman as well was Vertigo, wasn't it?
I need to get that. I was meant to buy that.
Was Hitman Vertigo? I can't remember.
It's a Black Label omnibus, I'm pretty certain.
No, it's not. It's DC.
I have it somewhere.
It's right
actually DC.
Sure I just wanted to make you walk to the bookshelf again. This is Snyder's cutting some chat here. Sorry, we'll come back to you, Chris, in your other books, because these guys kind of stole your thunder here, but we'll go back.
No, you're good.
I read this too, that IDW, with their kind of horror imprint or their dark imprint, They've got Event Horizon 28 Days Later, and there's something else that stands out, which I completely forget now. I say it stands out, but I forgot it. You know, a pretty well-known kind of IP for horror stuff.
Event Horizon is still one of the scariest films I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
Classic.
100%. I
Yeah,
love
the
that.
living crap out of me.
Yeah. But hopefully that works for IDW, because, like I say, you don't want them to kind of like, you don't want them to struggle, because we obviously benefit from their stuff. But
problem with those smaller imprints of smaller companies is they just kind of fade into the background, though, because like when you look at dark horses like Archaea and stuff like that, they just don't. I mean, you very rarely see them.
Which is true. Tell me, is Valiant still a thing? Are they making a comeback?
I don't think so. I think they're done.
They done?
It's gone. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I just
I was
worry
fancy checking out Valiant stuff, but it was always so difficult to get.
Yeah, same.
I feel the same way about a lot of the sort of Lady Death and stuff like that. Like, you just can't get collected editions.
Maybe if they did, if they entered that market, they'll maybe bring in a bit more revenue, and they could have stayed the course. I forgot Morrison is doing some work on Ice Cream Man. They've been kind of teasing that, haven't they, on their Instagram, like different creators coming in. I'm assuming it's going to be like an anthology, one issue per creator type of thing.
No, it's one issue, and it's each creator gets a single page, and so they got to tell a one-page horror story within the anthology of the single issue 43. Yeah,
that's mad.
Ice Cream
yeah,
Man's
I'm really curious
weird
to see how
anyway.
they do that.
It's another series I love. Ice Cream Man's great.
I need to catch up. I've got the 2 deluxes, but I've only read the equivalent of the first 2 trades.
I think I made about 4 or 5 trades in. I think I haven't read it in a while.
I don't think I've read it. I read that book that it was the same creator, I think, Hotel. That was the same guy, wasn't it?
I think Hotel. I think it's not John Lee's. Is it just Hotel?
Oh man, what do we call the guy? Prince? Some Prince, or
That's it. William something Prince. I'll get the name.
Maxwell Prince.
Maxwell Prince. But we read stuff in the face for the book club. I thought it was Hotel, but it might not have been.
He did.
That's why you invite G.
Exactly. He brings the knowledge. Yeah. There's no waiting around. But yeah, I agree with Connie. Like, it sounds like to be hard to read, and it would be. Imagine like getting like all these different creators, and then you hit Grant Morrison's page.
I mean, is it the same artist all the way through?
Good question.
What Ice Cream Man?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it is. I think they announced,
because if it's just like the creators writing, like imagine like the Ice Cream issue where he has like 3 different paths. If it's just each creator writing like a path within the story, but it's one artist doing it, it could still look fairly consistent.
He's the consistent writer through it. Martin Moronzo. So he's in issue 43 and he was on issue 1. So he's been consistent through the whole series.
Yeah, I think he's doing the art for it. The only exception's the Zoe Thorogood page. She's doing her own art.
Okay, I mean, if it's like
I like her art.
Yeah.
As long as contextually it makes sense that it looks different.
Fuzzy has pointed out that G was wrong, so I'm going to retract my earlier statement until clarification comes through.
For what?
Yeah, haha was W. Maxwell Prince.
Okay, well, Hotel was strange. Connie liked it.
Yeah, I was going to say I like Maxwell Prince's stuff, but I've never didn't really enjoy Hotel. It wasn't for me.
All right, well, go back to Chris, because the 2 other books you gave me, I've actually read one of them. I completely forget what's about. The You, Me, Love in the Dark. That's by Scotty Young and
Hey Corona.
That's the one. We read that, didn't we, Martin, for the book?
We did, yeah.
I can't remember. I can't remember what's about. So,
It was good.
Chris,
I'll let Chris take it. I remember it was.
Yeah, you might have to fill in some blanks. It's been a little bit of time since I've read it, but it's about a woman that moves into a house. I think she's an artist or an author, and she wants to spend some time there and really get some work done. But it turns out the house is haunted. And so the first issue is kind of setting up these eerie, creepy, shadowy sort of figures coming out of the walls and out the door. But then it turns out that the house is in love with her, and she starts to develop feelings for the house. But it is still a haunted house, and so it's this interesting relationship she has with that house. It's a mini series, like 3 issues or something. It's pretty short.
Yeah, it's not a big story. It's not one trade, isn't it, basically?
Yeah. yeah, it's interesting sort of look at her relationship with that and the toxicity that comes with it in a way. I think it's meant to be a metaphor for
lives
toxic relationships.
like all day, all night in the house. She doesn't leave, kind of thing.
Yeah, she gets obsessed, doesn't she?
It does sound familiar. Martin, did we rate it highly?
I think I don't think we rated it super highly, but we did rate it reasonably good. It was an enjoyable read. I would read it again.
Yeah, I am a fan of Jorge Corona and Scotty Young. They done Middle West, doesn't together, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they've done something recently which I want to read.
Ain't No Grave.
Ain't No Grave. That's on my list to pick up at some point soon. I think it's
they are very skinny figures. That's the only kind of thing I would say about the art.
I remember Middle West. We always commented on their ankles,
yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I suppose it's their own kind of artistic style, isn't it?
Connie is throwing shade you away, G. It's not going to go down well, this ain't.
Well, that's what we do here, Connie. That's how we roll.
See, I was one of the ones that actually did like Hotel.
I liked Hotel.
Yeah,
I didn't say it was bad. I just said I didn't enjoy it. I'm very particular about not saying, a book can be for anybody.
I didn't like it because I thought it was too far.
But then I'm not into like really dark horror stories. It's not really my thing. I like things that are maybe a bit more thinky.
Whoa, Connie! Whoa!
Oh, she's redirected the shade.
I think if you've got limits, I think I can understand why people might not appreciate it. But let's be honest, if you've got no limits of what bothers you, it's great.
Yeah. Jason Park Comics has joined in. How you going? Ain't No Grave is their best work yet, according to Fuzzy.
Oh, that's a statement.
It was pretty good. It felt a bit too short, and so it was a little rushed feeling for me. But yeah, it was good.
Is it a one and done, or they plan to revisit it?
Yeah, I think it's 5 issues and done. Yeah.
Makes me want to check it out. If it's the best work yet.
She's got a point. Did you hear the shit he was talking about Tom Taylor earlier? He's such a two-faced kid. He really is.
Let me just talk about Hotel because it's been brought up a few times. So Hotel was a strange ass story, and I didn't mind it. But there was a scene where like a guy killed his wife, and the act of that's deplorable enough. But like he chopped her up to the point where there was like a scene in the book where her face was like hanging from like the ceiling fan. And it's not like the blood and the gore kind of made me feel a bit ick about it. It was the idea of just a man chopping up his missus. Like, whether you want to do it or not, I feel like you could do it at any point in your life, but just the idea of doing it just kind of left me feeling a wee bit strange. So yeah. Sorry, Connie, for having what are those called?
Limits.
What?
Limits.
Limits, yeah, that's the one.
Maybe the artist was just told to go for it.
Yeah, possibly. Andy from Perpetua is here. He says, I'm late. Start again, please. Right, so we'll go back to the start. Remember what was said word for word. I'm going to play that intro again, so it's going to get your palpitations going once again.
Can we just start without the 10, 9, etc.?
No. We're what 15 minutes in. We're going to go back to the start, intro and all. And then Chris will pick on Chris for a little while. He tells us his collecting habits. And then, Chris, can you put the Preacher books back on your shelf? And then you're going to come back to
get them again.
Get it again and come back again?
Okay. No.
Okay.
You're just going to have to catch up. And it's, yeah.
We're just Chris from Off My Shelves was just whinging about the different spine designs he's going to have in his collection going forward. I mean, Feral was another one you had listed down. Is that the same team from Stray Dogs?
Yeah, same pair. Yes, Feral is an ongoing rather than a mini series. It's effectively a zombie apocalypse told through the perspective of cats and other animals, and instead of the zombie virus, it's rabies. And so we start with these cats. Basically, I think they're being transported in the back of like an animal handling van, and it crashes, and they end up in the woods, and they have to escape and try and get home. That's kind of the first arc, is them figuring out that direction. But just like in Stray Dogs, how they kind of establish dogs have short-term memory, and so that becomes part of the story. In this, it's that they have no real focus. They get distracted by things really easily as these cats, and one of them is trying to really stay focused and keep everyone going, but the other one's young and it's impulsive and it doesn't have like very good control over its own behavior at the moment, and so it causes nothing but frustrations, which is great. But yeah, it's a cool little series. I'm really been enjoying it. I think I'm behind an issue or two, but yeah, it's been really good. If you like Stray Dogs, then this is definitely worth checking out, unless you love animals, in which case I would say don't necessarily check this out.
Yeah, well, we read Stray Dogs and
Loved
enjoyed
it.
it. Was there a second Stray Dogs?
Nope.
They did like a 2-issue mini. Yeah.
I mean, the correct answer is no, but there was.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't think the follow-ups were any good, to be honest. Feral, I'll check it out. Unfortunately, though, Fuzzy's very how do you put this?
Direct.
Yeah, direct. That's the one with his opinions. And I actually haven't heard this saying in a while. I used to use the term pure mince. So here's Feral is pure mince.
It's a weird saying because mince is lush.
Depends how
We've been lined up on everything so far, Fuzzy. So this will be our one difference.
I question the sensibility of a creative team making a series about dogs and then following it up with a series of cats.
What's next?
You're gonna get typecast. What's the next one? Fish and cats again, I suppose.
Goldfish.
Can't think of any opposites.
I mean, I think the artist was originally from My Little Pony books anyway.
Is that where they're from? Oh yeah, that's right.
Where the art style comes from.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The art of My Little Pony, the modern series.
But that's the thing. Whoever it was, if they were on My Little Pony and then they moved from like drawing that to like.
Well, I mean, the writer, I'm not sure, but artist-wise, it was an artist that had done My Little Pony for quite a long time.
Being able to draw animals like in harm and distress, and I think Stray Dogs one was shot. Is that right? Yeah.
Definitely harmed in some way. Yeah.
Broken windows, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
I'm just more surprised.
You never saw what happened to Applejack. What happened to Applejack? Oof. She's a pony, guys. Come on.
I know who Applejack is. Right, my. Whenever I'm reading My Little Pony to my daughter, I do Applejack in the real kind of country Texan accent, which I'm not going to hear, but I do.
What are you going
Yeah.
to
What's the rabbit?
With myxomatosis. It kind of like rabbit rabies. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to get it more in depth than that.
Usagi had an issue about myxomatosis before.
Usagi is very clean living, so he doesn't kind of contract myxomatosis. You don't know. I don't like. Again, throw in some shade on Usagi, boy.
Chris, do you remember he helped me get the Usagi box set?
Yeah.
From America? Yeah, it's still sealed.
Did you? Yeah.
It's still sealed, yeah. Still in the wrapper.
Still sealed.
I read mine so fast.
3 years ago, that was. 3 years ago.
Yeah. Quite bad by myself, getting over to my own house.
Is it a quick read, though, or is it quite a dense read?
It's like manga.
Oh, okay.
It's really quick.
It is quick. It's just long. There's so much of it, but
yeah,
if you just wanted to, and you can just kind of jump in and out. That's the nice thing about it.
But
you
just
don't need
that
to stick to
first box set, super quick.
That's why I want to get into it. Now, to be fair, 2025 is my year for reading. By the end
of said that every year since I've known you. Every year. To be fair, 2021 is going to be my year for reading. To be fair, 2022 is going to be my year for reading.
But I mean it this time, right? So
you said that as well.
I pledge here live on the internet in front of millions and millions of my fans
to finish all of Captain America.
I'm nearly finished that. To be fair.
What volume of Turtles are you on? 3, yeah. Remember when you promised to do a video of every volume on when you did volume 2?
Guys, this is not my roast. We're not here to drill me, but by the end of 2025, every single physical book I own, including Usagi Yojimbo, will be read.
Done.
Are you sure you
Or
want
you
to
won't
say
own them
that?
and just
Like,
sell them.
That's a big promise. Yeah, I would.
that's a big promise.
Well, I'm going to do it. That's okay. I should say I'm going to aim to do it. Okay.
So that's
Achieve that or not? That's just,
It's already.
Yeah, I'll do that too. I'll aim to do it as well.
Already
We're in this
What-
together, Phil.
I'll do the same. I'll aim to read everything I own by 2024, the end of 2025.
You started this
In
video
theory.
saying you're going to sell loads of stuff, though. So
Yeah.
That's why I'm going. That's why I'm going to do it.
all right, you're going to be like one book on the shelf. That's not done.
I feel like this would be a lot easier for Chris and I, where we've only got maybe like 50 books to read.
Yeah, I actually counted the other day. It's a bit annoying at the
Well,
moment.
the funny thing is, so Scott, Martin, and myself, we done this at the start of the year, didn't we? We counted our physical books and worked out our ratio of what we've read and so forth. And it wasn't good reading. The numbers weren't really good for
It
us.
still
in
isn't
terms-
good.
Yeah, they all haven't improved that much in
No,
11
because
months. But
I've probably bought more than I've read.
Yeah.
So the figure's probably going to mess up a little bit.
but we're gonna at some point, probably in a January stream, we're gonna have a show where we do the recount and see who's like on the leaderboard of most books read to what they own. So, I won't win this year, but
I don't think I'm gonna win.
2025 is my year. All right.
I haven't even read Stray Dogs yet, so I got that to read before I get to Pharaoh.
Ali saying, Chris casually throwing out the My Little Pony references. Apple Jack Daniels is lush, and it is. I love Apple Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
You should read Stray Dogs, though, Chris. It's good.
I will.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I will add it to the ever-growing list.
Yeah.
It's also relatively quick because it's quite big art.
I'm more
They're
interested in
doing,
the Apple Jack Daniels now.
Go and get one.
For all the Saggy fans,
Yeah, you should just delete this comment. I'll be honest; it's very inflammatory.
he says he's sure that's factually correct as well. Can you disprove it?
Is this the same sureness of like a lot of like American election sureness of information? Like no one really knows.
I had a joke to make about the election next week, but I think I best just stay away from it because who knows what the world's going to look like in a week's time. But anyway.
You looked like you were crossing stuff out then, like you had a list.
Yeah.
Have you got a list?
Well, I've already crossed
Crossing out a joke. He's like, I wouldn't do that joke.
I've crossed out my Vertigo spine book issue.
Right.
I feel like if I did bring it up, I suppose, but had I brought it up, I would have been chewed up and spat out.
But would it genuinely spoil a book for you if it had a different logo on the shelf?
No, but I feel like if you're investing, the Preacher for is one that luckily I got a good price, but the big three at the minute's up and down quite a lot.
I paid £80 for mine, which was bargain. To be fair,
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. But really, for that money, I want my three spines to match. Basically, I want it to be so good that I don't have any issues with it. Even like the smallest of things that annoy me, I don't want it to annoy me. If I'm paying that kind of money towards it, that's where I'm coming from. But I still enjoy the book.
There are so many weird things on books, though, sometimes that just happen anyway, though, where, like, for instance, you'll get Rick Remender books with a sort of giant generator logo, and on one of them in the middle of it will be a much bigger logo or something. Or if you've got the Invincible set of 12 books, one of them says Invincible in pink.
Do you know what annoys me?
Some things you have to just accept, you know?
But there's things like this as well. So Gideon Falls was a book I was attempting to read this month as well, which I didn't get finished. But there's two hardcovers for it, and they're different thicknesses, which really annoys me. Like, it's not symmetrical, and like they should have just split the story in two hardcovers, but they didn't, and it really annoys me.
Like, it's not even split.
Yeah, it's.
yeah.
I think
the book 2 is thinner, noticeably thinner than book 1.
Yeah.
So it looks more like a companion than.
Oh, you must love Captain America omnibuses, then. That's like that's a Covian.
Yeah, for Marvel, to be fair, that's okay. But I feel like for indie books, I feel like these things should be thought off well in advance.
You racist bastard! I can't believe that. Racist against indie books.
Don't stop saying racist because it's the
I'm telling you now, if I will not stand for racism against indie books. They're allowed to do what Marvel does. Tell you what.
I mean, like thicker and thinner books is fine. When you get books that are like taller and shorter in the next volume, that's a different issue.
Yes, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem.
And that's why Image annoy me a little bit too, because Image do that with some of their books. Some are taller than others. I don't like that.
That's like different imprints with an Image, right? Like Giant Generator do the big.
Oh yeah, but even like so the Reckless books and the Pulp, like they're all just standard hardcover, but I don't like them against like Saga, for example. Even I know this is just like right. I need to pull this back in, pull it together. I need to rein that back in. We need to get back on track. Chris, do you have a green screen? Is that your?
That's my house. Yeah. The kids are behind the bookshelf, eating rats.
Tony, don't say it, because if you say it, it's pulled out of context, and people actually say that I am. And that's not true.
What's interesting, I've noticed the Fantagraphics have got an interesting approach. They sometimes use like the Flame logo and the FB logo, and then sometimes they just write Fantagraphics full as well.
But no one really reads Fantagraphics. Who really reads those? I know you're a big fan.
I am a big fan.
Just on that though, that green screen idea, Andy, it's something I thought about. I thought about tidying my room behind me here, taking a picture, and like so it's pristine and everything looks really well, and then just having the green screen with that same picture every time, so I don't have to worry about tidying the room.
Then you're gonna have that weird green cut out as you move all the time.
Oh,
this is true, but I think as long as it's well lit behind you, I think it's okay. It's only if it's like dark and light kind of.
You got to make sure you're not wearing any blue or green or carrying anything blue or green.
I think the comment section turned against you, Phil. Quite rightly.
And I love the Scottish. And I'm going back myself here. It's okay, Colin. No one sees your IG stories anyway, so don't worry about it.
You just putting the target on you now.
Wow, this has just become a flame war.
Oh dear. This is not about me, this stream. This is about our scurry reads. And I haven't got our festive reads yet. Phil in a sex dungeon would be magnificent. It is.
It would. A new Godzilla t-shirt in a sex dungeon.
See, the thing is, I had a jumper on, and he's made me so nervous and anxious. I'm just sweating profusely. I'm just like, that's what it is. Anyway, so thank you, Chris, for that. That was your 3 horror recommendations.
You took an hour doing that.
I know. Yeah, sorry. I feel like I said like 3 words, but yeah. Yeah, that was on me. That was me, guys. That's sorry. I'll stop talking now.
Next time you come on, I mean, I tell you.
All that time
there's too many interruptions. Yeah, exactly.
I've just got a lot to say about it, you know.
He does a brilliant video on the trees book with the bear.
Yep.
Because that was in was it in your recent reads video, or did you do a video on it on its own? You did a video on its own.
Dedicated video, yeah.
He has a recent video, 5 horror reads, I think you have up. Is that right? Or 5 spooky reads or something? Yeah. I made these banners and I might as well use them actually.
Yay.
The guys here on Instagram and YouTube. This is their handles. Highland G's there. Did you change yours, Highland G? Because yours were different for each of the things. I checked them before I went on, and they're both at Highland G. Was one not like at the Highland G?
I thought Instagram was the Highland G, unless they've allowed it to drop back.
I went onto it just before we came on. It just says Highland G. I was like, oh, that's good.
Whatever works. I know a lot of things are dropping all the extra little bits and things recently. Like Discord made me drop all the numbers recently. It's just become my name.
All right, okay. Chris is off my shelves.
Follow the other guys; they better.
You said that.
I don't post that much on Instagram anyway.
I don't either, but I do like to have a good nosy. Highland G, what would you recommend for kind of spooky horror read?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm not really into like proper horror stuff as such. So like I picked up some books that I have read, not necessarily recently, but just stuff that I thought was kind of interesting to kind of check out. So the first one that I want to mention, and I probably mentioned quite a few times on sort of nerd herd stuff, and you guys still never read, is A Week in the Library, and this is by Maxwell Prince.
Oh.
And basically the idea is
he knew the answer, Chris. That's because it was right.
That's such a coincidence. It's like this has all been scripted. Has everyone got a script? Is that what he's crossing off and no one's giving me the script?
So basically this guy goes into the library that contains all the stories that have ever been told, and some of the books start kind of playing up and doing various kind of things in the library. There's floods, there's all sorts of different stuff that kind of like happens, and he has to just kind of deal with these stories as they happen. But it plays with it in like a really fun style. So you get some like regular comic book pages, but then you also get like puzzles and like maybe like a page of prose where something's like a page from like in the book. And one of my favorite issues that they do in there is this issue where I think it kind of starts with like a worm or a fly, something like that, and basically a fly goes and then gets eaten by a worm, and then the worm gets eaten by a bird, and so on and so forth as it goes throughout the whole story. And there's so many references to like other like movies and shows and stuff from these sequences. You think of like, you know, famous flies or famous worms or famous pigs and stuff like that. It's just a really quick little kind of story, not necessarily with text in it. It's just kind of showing you the sequence of basically the story of life. And I think these stories get quite dark and quite thoughty, but they're not necessarily outright horror as such. It's just one of those sort of Maxwell Prince things where he kind of makes you think. So it's only like roughly, I think, about 4 issues thickness wise. It's a really thin trade, but it's a fun, interesting book to kind of check out. Do you want me just to kind of whip through the 2-3 books I've got quickly? Or?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So the next one I want to mention is called The Vampire Slayer. This is a fairly new sort of retake on the sort of Buffy story. They flipped up a few of the characters. So the story in this one is that Buffy's basically kind of been tricked out of having her powers, and Willow has the powers. Spike and Xander are kind of together as a kind of gay couple, and there's a couple of other little twists in there. But generally, the characters are the TV show characters. Like, they really play into their sort of personalities and the way they talk and things like that. And it's a 4-volume run that was really sort of concisely done. And I thought it was just a fun alternate take on the sort of Buffy universe without it kind of going too wild like some of the comics did previously.
I think you read that. Is that 4-issue mini? I think.
No, it's 4 trades, so it's like 20 issues.
Okay. There was a 4-issue mini Buffy story at one point.
There's been a few other spin-offs they've done. They've done like an old Slayer story, and
that's why I'm thinking. Oh, she was older, and there was a
Kind of... But this is more like just starting from where the TV show would have started, but Buffy's basically tricked out of having her powers, and Willow has the powers on top of her witchcraft.
Nice, cool.
And then the last 2 I want to mention is these Beautiful Darkness and Satania. These are more like kind of journey stories, but they're really dark and kind of twisted in ways. So Beautiful Darkness is kind of these small sort of imp-like creatures that basically go and hunt through a dead body, but you don't really realize that's what it is. And Satania is a similar kind of idea, but it's kind of a journey to the middle of the earth, but ends up kind of being hell. And it's done in this sort of like cutesy art kind of styles. I'll show you some of the...
Are they European books?
Inside. European? So yeah, these are published by, I think they're both by NBM. No, one's D&Q, don't know what that stands for. And one is NBM, but they're both the same creative team. It's Fabian Velman and Kerescoit, if I'm saying that correctly. But again, like if you think about, you know, sort of the Beneath the Trees kind of book where it's kind of cutesy bears and things, like the art here is done. So I'm just going to, if I can find pages. Art is kind of done in a very kind of, almost kind of water painted, but kind of cutesy kind of style, although it's showing quite dark moments. There's adult stuff in here, and there is some nudity in this one, which is why I'm kind of avoiding showing certain pages. But it is all done in a very sort of like fun, bright, artistic kind of style for this one.
This is what I ask. Do you find like when it comes to horror stories, like you mentioned Feral and Stray Dogs and Leaf the Trees and that one, like the cutesy kind of artwork is almost like better because like you don't expect horror, you don't expect.
I think it makes you think about it. I mean, like something that I mentioned to my girlfriend recently was that I think the one thing that they've never done in movies and that I would love to see done because I don't think it's ever been explored is a horror movie with plant life sped up. Because no one ever thinks about plant life as any kind of angry or violent related thing, but they literally strangle each other to death in order to live in sort of like areas next to each other. They move into spaces without any permissions. And if you don't take that with a human consciousness, you just take regular plant life, all pretty, bright lights and everything, but you just speed it the hell up. How scary is plants? Like simple, pretty things.
The funny thing is, I'm pretty certain it's The Walking Dead. At the early episodes, their theme tune had a lot of kind of like the vines kind of growing through. Because everything's abandoned, not maintained, and kind of growing through the bricks or whatever. And maybe that, like what you're saying, that's like when you think about that, it's actually quite scary that
it's just little things that you don't think about. Yeah, and I think these books really provoke that.
Yeah. First of all, Andy said he picked up All-Star Batman hardcover. Instantly took off the dust jacket cover. Does that make you a monster? No. What would make you a monster is if you read that book with the dust jacket on. That's what makes you the monster.
If you took off the dust jacket and got rid of it.
Oh, that's like what you do with your DVDs and your cardboard sleeve. You throw them away. That's strange.
See, I'm with you. I don't think you're
to
a
be
monster
honest, I
for doing
that. To wind people up.
I actually prefer art on board than I do dust jackets. If you could, whatever's on the dust jacket, put it on the damn hardcover because I'd rather that be on the shelf than having a dust jacket.
And sometimes they do. Sometimes they match.
Sometimes,
Harleen, which is a DC Black Label book, which is phenomenal. They had the one where the dust jacket was an acetate style cover, so like it had half her face kind of masked off. When you pulled it up, it had all her kind of horror looking face. That was the original.
That's the thing. Like if it's part of the book, like the Harleen books and stuff, where you kind of like lift off and you see something underneath, that becomes kind of part of the style of the book. But if the dust jacket is simply a way to put all the ISBNs and barcodes on something that you can then get rid of and have a nicer looking book, then yeah, sure, get rid of the dust jacket. If the book has everything else on it that's other than those kind of like commercial things.
Yeah, I wanted to address a comment earlier on by Fuzzy. He's like, Andy, do you remember in Panels and Pints when Phil disappeared for 20 minutes because the neighbour's alarm went off and Phil had to investigate? He's called me a hero. This is true. So I was on their live stream one time and my brother, who lives 5 or 6 doors up the street, and my wife texted my brother's alarm's going off and they're on holiday or something. So I had to go up and I was shitting my pants because, like, what if there was somebody in their house? What would I do?
What are you going to do? Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, I got the key and went in, turned the alarm off, and I thought, I can't just like leave. I have to look around the house to make sure there's no one in. But I was a bit frightened, So I went to the living room and I got the poker, the fire poker. And I'm walking around their house, checking the wardrobes, checking the cupboards, finding all the nooks and crannies, looking for like some sort of, I don't know, dark shape to jump out and get me. But yeah, that was true. So I do think that's heroic because I ensured that there was no danger.
At least you went in there to deal with it. You could have just shouted open the door and gone, if anyone's here, can you leave, please?
I did say that first. In that exact same tone. No, I don't think you were telling lies. Just in case someone thinks like I went to the toilet or something for 20 minutes. But no, I legitimately had to go into my brother's house and investigate. Sure. What are we talking about? Trees and growing leaves and
just horror things that come from natural things and bright things. That necessarily...
actually, Poison Ivy, which I've never read Poison Ivy, but I feel like she's underutilized because she has that capability.
You have read Poison Ivy.
Yeah, but the one we read, she wasn't a villain of the story, really, was she?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like she could really, like Swamp Thing does it, doesn't it? At times,
I mean, there's stories where Poison Ivy's taken over like the whole sort of Central Park and has her own kids that kind of like look after things for her and all sorts of minion type stuff going on.
Yeah. But that one story we read, to be fair, Poison Ivy was by G. Willow Wilson. So the newer stuff, the newest run, was actually pretty good.
It was a good run.
Okay, I should have got back into that. If they release an omnibus down the line, that's something I'll definitely pick up. All right, Chris, off my shelves. Do you have a horror story that doesn't have a rabbit or a big red guy from hell?
No. yeah, I do. Well, the weird thing is I when you sent the message through, or horror themed book, etc. You know that I hate when people say, "Oh, it's spooky season, read a spooky book." I instantly want to rebel against it. I instantly want to go, "Screw you, spooky books! I'm going to read Christmas books." And when they tell me to read Christmas books, I'm going to say, "Screw you! I'm reading spooky books." I can't help it. I rebel against stuff like that. But I unwittingly picked up off my shelves.
Oh,
thank you very much. A book that was full of really good horror stories. One awful one, a really good one as well. And I didn't really, and I picked it up and I thought people are going to think this is how ridiculous my brain works. I picked this up and I thought, well, I can't talk about this now because people are going to think that I read this at Halloween. And then if I talk about it, they think I'm going to be jumping on a bandwagon at Halloween. And I don't want to be seen like that. Welcome to my world. This is the problem with me.
Chris, jump on the bandwagon with us all. Come on.
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. Incidentally, Martin, right? Neil Gaiman Library Edition 2. Look. Dust jacket. Under the dust jacket. Exactly the same.
See, now that's nice.
Pointless dust jacket.
Exactly.
Yes. So I picked this up. This is part of 3 library editions by Dark Horse. They collect a lot of kind of unconnected stories of. Now, put us back the other way, and I'll tell you why.
You're showing.
Put us back the other way. Put us back the other way.
No.
Put us back. Put us back. I can't have Martin's face covered by that Omnifuss logo. I feel like I feel like we are segregating him to being under the law. Look,
easily done. There we go.
Oh, that's So this is volume 2 of a 3-volume set. I read volume 1 and I had volume 2 on the shelf for ages, and I just didn't pick them up. I really enjoyed volume 1. It was kind of Neil Gaiman's take on a Sherlock Holmes story, but again, most of them, like Neil Gaiman's writing, for the most part, is quite supernatural and always got those slants. But this one I thought was way more ghost story orientated than all the others that I've read anyway, And so it's split up into, I think, 4 different books or 3 different books. So Likely Stories, Trollbridge, Harlequin, Valentine, and the Facts in the Case of the Departure of Miss Finch. And different artists throughout it all, really. But it's the first 2 stories that I quite liked. And they were very kind of horrific in different ways, but weird in different ways as well. I don't know. Are you allowed to get demonetized if I show like people having sex?
We're not monetized to begin with.
Oh, that's good. That's fine. Cool. Why am I on your channel?
You had the
It starts off Likely Stories, basically as a little prologue. Essentially it gives a prologue to saying, oh, there's this pub that I went to, and it's full of these interesting characters, etc., etc. And then it just kind of stops the prologue and goes into different characters who in some way their story intercedes or intersects with that pub, this random London pub. This first story is mad because it's all about the guy who's masturbating too much, and then basically he decides he's going to stop, and then he starts having pains, and he thinks, oh, I've got like an STD, what's going on? And so he keeps going back and forth to the doctor to try and figure out what's going on, and the story evolves, and you haven't got clue really what's going on or why this. And it's a lot of narration about his psyche and his kind of approach and everything. And then it builds and builds and builds to him being fully convinced, that he's being taken over by another being, by someone else. Someone else is kind of, and so this whole STD going back and forth to the hospital and stuff gives him such a complex that he starts to go down this road of severe kind of mental health. But then, is it severe mental health, or is his body actually being turned into something else? And it was very weird. But again, it was perfect for kind of like a Halloween story. Then the next story, and this is all still in that likely stories section, like, which is all stories around people in the pub. A guy walked into the pub and saw this really emaciated friend of his and like, what's happened to him? He used to look so handsome. And then it goes through his story. If there's any animal lovers, you might want to look away pretty soon. Oh, I wouldn't show that, actually.
Is it bestiality? Are you going to show here? What?
No. He shares a room with a woman opposite, and this woman opposite is very weird. And then he gets a suspicion that she's eating like the flesh of cats and stuff like that. And so the story develops, and he ends up being intertwined in that story. And again, it kind of comes and goes relatively quick, but it's all got that kind of spooky go. It feels a lot like, which is, I think, is what he's going for. It feels a lot like when you would go to a pub and you would and your mates would tell ghost stories. In fact, one of the stories is, a group of friends go into the pub and telling each other ghost stories and seeing how that went. There's another story about a guy who was obsessed with this girl in a porn magazine, and he basically just thinks she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen, and he keeps like seeing her, and he tries to search through her for all these different publications over like 20 or 30 years, and he's just obsessed with picking up all these magazines and trying to search for her until he finds her, so much so that like he becomes a professional photographer to try and find her. And so you got that story, but there's loads of really weird stories, and yeah, it's wonderful. I love it. I agree with that. It's just really good. It really is. Like, you get some telling weird stories about ghostly hands and apparitions. It's just a really fun read. Like, there's no clean cut stories at all. They're all very peculiar and very off, but they're fun and they don't hang around too long. Then the second story, and I'll touch on the last two stories quickly, but the second story is really, really good. And it's a really strong horror ghost story. And it's called Trollbridge. The art in this is fabulous. And I'll mention the artist now because I've forgotten his name. But the art is amazing. Colin Duran.
Is it the same artist all the way through the book, or is it a different artist?
No, different art. Each of the 4 books is a different artist. So you've got Mark Buckingham doing likely stories. He did Fables, if memory serves. And then Trollbridge is Colin Duran. And then you've got John Bolton doing Harley Quinn Valentine. And then Michael Zulli, I've never heard of him, doing the last story. The last story is probably one of the worst things I've ever read, by the way, but we'll get to that. Trollbridge, right, is all about the story. I mean, look at that page. That's awesome, isn't it?
It's cool.
That's quite cool.
It's brilliant. Yeah, the troll lives under a bridge, but instead of like being on visual display under the bridge, he kind of blends in and camouflages into the brickwork, and these beaming eyes are coming out, which is really good. So it's obviously that play on the bridge, on the ghost being under the bridge type story. Oh, not a ghost story, the troll. But I picked this up and I was reading it, and I was like, I'm not reading Halloween books. I definitely was. But yeah, he goes to a bridge. He goes to the troll bridge. He's going through all these different nice nature things where he grows up. And he finds himself then with the troll under the bridge. And the troll says, I'm going to eat you. And I'm going to eat your life. And it doesn't really say what that means. I'm going to eat you alive. But the troll basically says, I'm going to eat you alive. And he's like, no, don't. I've got so much life left to live. If you don't eat me now, I promise I'll come back. I promise I'll be back and you can eat me then. And the troll is like, okay, I believe you. And so then he goes away, grows up, falls in love, as a girl. And then just after like a drunken night kind of a fooling around with his girl and having a wander around, he realizes he's back near and under this bridge. And the troll comes at him again and then again. And again, he's got to find a way of not getting out, of trying to get out of being eaten. And the whole story is really good. And it ends in a great way as well. But it's a really solid kind of Halloween ghost story, I think. And particularly like playing on that trope of who's that trip trapping on my bridge, that troll story that is so kind of like, I don't know, is that quite uniquely British, the troll under the bridge, or is it more like continental Europe or America? I don't know. But it's a story that I think we all probably grew up knowing about.
Yeah.
The troll under the bridge. But it's really good, and it finishes in a really weird way. Then it takes a bit of a dive, the book, but not in a terrible way. The art I didn't much like of this. It's all about this kind of very strange, I think, Italian kind of character, which is Harley Quinn Valentine, this guy, and how he kind of falls in love with this girl so much that he takes his heart out and nails it to her front door, and that's how the story starts. And it's the girl then wakes up, finds this heart in her door, and like, what the hell is going on? And so it just follows their story. But the art is quite strange. A lot of collage and photorealism going on. And it wasn't great because the first two were so strong. But it was fine. Right? But the last one was probably one of the worst things I've ever read. So if you're going to read this, just avoid the last story, I would.
Like, worst thing is in like terrifying or like the writing?
No, as in absolute shit.
Oh.
Now, it's called Miss Finch, and the facts in the case of the departure of Miss Finch. Now, it would be all right if not for the relentless self-indulgence in it. Like, Neil Gaiman basically puts himself in the story, but not only does he put himself in the story, he puts Jonathan Ross and his wife Jane in the story. So Jonathan Ross is a character, and his wife Jane is, and it's about them going to a London kind of underground nightclub circus and then having experiences there. It is super self-indulgent and
Experiences is like,
it's rubbish. But those first two are really good, and you can buy all of those stories, I think, individually as well. You don't have to get them necessarily in the trade paperback, so you can buy them digitally and stuff. The Troll is well worth a read, and Likely Stories is well worth a read if you like those kind of, ghost stories that you tell in a pub with your mates and stuff like that type approach. The other two are hit and miss, really.
So that's volume 2. How many in total are there?
3.
3, okay. And you have all 3?
Yeah. I read number 1 ages and ages ago, like a long time ago. And I did not get around to reading 2. 3, I won back in that competition with OPB. That's how long 3 has been sitting on my shelf.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Yeah. So that's
I always remember that competition because I remember talking to Chris about this, and I was going to put an entry in. I was like, hey, you make a video and send it to OPB for their advert, or so to speak. I was going to do it, and I remember Chris basically says like, don't, because I'm going to win it. Chris was so confident. Says,
I remember actually I said I wouldn't because I got a great idea that I'm going to win with.
I did win. And I was like, you knew it. Yeah.
Anyway.
You're that confident in your ideas. You were going to win. Neil Gaiman, unfortunately, I mean, pick up the books while you can, I suppose, because I think he's on the verge of being cancelled, isn't he?
Well, he is. Well, do you want to explain more?
I'm not entirely sure the entire story, but I think there's allegations of sexual. I don't know. I want to say assault. No, that's right, or
misconduct. I think
misconduct. That's the one. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think if you read any of his work, he's really sexual. He's got a fascination with his own sexuality, and lots of forms of kind of, sexuality. It is a main part of all his literature. So it doesn't surprise me, to be fair, really. But again, it's one of those things, is like, do you separate the artist from the art? And it's a hard, because I struggle doing it sometimes as well. Like, so I don't know. It's like Warren Ellis. I love Warren Ellis's writing and his work, and then you've got lots of stuff around him. So it's probably bad. But I know an author. I used to date briefly an author that did a book tour with him, and she had a few stories. I don't want to be liable.
Yeah, not in the show. Do that on your own channel. Just not. Connie's saying, I don't want to say it out loud, but that's what Connie is apparently saying. I hate when this stuff comes up, because you don't want to almost admit it. But as Chris is saying, his books are even Sandman had a few scenes that were a bit too much. You think yourself you're not too surprised, but like I say, only allegations at this point.
I think a lot of the people that have had things come up are much older people from
it's all historical
generation as well.
A time when people didn't speak up, I suppose, isn't it?
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't excuse anything, but they are a product of a different era.
Yeah, I know you're going, yeah, but like I say, Neil Gaiman's some incredible works, not even just like comics, but like
no, most of his comic work is pales into insignificance to his prose and his screenwriting and stuff like that. Yeah.
And the Sandman Audible books I'm going through as well. Like, he obviously narrates them, and like even if his work stays, like I can't imagine anyone else doing that. I think they've only done the first 3. There's still more to go. I think episodes for it. So if they do it, it won't be the same, I suppose. Chris, you are a big Alan Moore fan. Andy said From Hell by Alan Moore is my favorite horror-esque book.
I don't see it as a horror-esque book, really. I can see why you would, but it's, I suppose, because it explores that kind of psyche of a serial killer, but also kind of does a really good job of a Victorian whodunit type thing. Then yeah, it is horror-esque, but I never think of it as that. I always think of it as like a kind of Victorian mystery, kind of delving into the damaged psyche of a serial killer type book. I love From Hell.
Yeah, I think you love everything by Alan Moore generally, don't you?
No, I don't. I don't like loads of his work, but when it hits spot on for me. Yeah.
Is there more horror books, Chris? Is that your
more horror books?
No, I just mean like
more.
Is that your list? Because you didn't send me the list pre-show. Like,
I know, on purpose, because I don't bow to authority.
Well, now we're not going to spend as much time talking about festive reads, but I like the idea that come the 1st of November, everyone's forgotten about spooky season. It's all about the festive period. And I think over the years, like, say me and Martin were in the book club, and we always had a Christmas themed month, but we always struggle to find good Christmas themed books. Like generally they're quite dreadful.
Yeah, across the board. You get the odd gem.
Well, the obvious one being Klaus, by Grant Morrison, when he was not on anything.
When you look at comics as a whole, there's not a lot of books that are written around seasons as such.
There's one issues of comics that are.
Yeah,
I can tell you
like in long runs. Yeah.
I could like the turtle.
You don't really get like the coming of fall story or the Easter story or something as a comic.
I think X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men.
Certainly, you say Jimbo has an Easter story. Come on, he must do.
Don't.
Easter's not Japanese.
Don't belittle yourself.
Oh, but it's a rabbit. It's like
a Japanese story.
Yeah, but it's rabbits.
Uncanny X-Men did a great Christmas themed issue when they were all ice skated in New York, and the Sentinels attacked or something like that. It was in that Dark Phoenix era, which was really good. Michelangelo did a great one shot, which was a Christmas one, the original Mirage kind of.
Yeah, I've remembered Batman issues where like Damien got a console and stuff like that.
Yeah. there's loads of those, but in terms of whole books, there ain't that many.
Do you have any?
Yeah.
You could come to mind, Chris? Right.
I'd like to scratch my head today.
Look, it's called Ice and Snow. Christmas.
With Usagi Yojimbo.
Yeah. So it's a Christmas book. This is actually my pick, by the way. I'm not joking.
Okay.
Does it actually take place at Christmas? Or is it just in
No, it just takes place on a frosty mountain. But, you know, it's...
I was going to say, how did they fit Christmas into... Okay.
Look at the first page. If that's not a Christmas book, I don't know what is, you know. It's snow, for God's sake. Look. Snow. This was fantastic, though. I was... The IDW run of Usagi, there was a few ups and downs of it, I thought. Some bits felt a bit off and a bit rushed, and there was some issues with the artwork as well in places, like being wrong, and the colorist changed at different points as well. And so, for me, following Usagi right the way through, these kind of little blips stood out quite prominently because it's so immaculate. Normally, like, everything is in order, but there was, like, in the second half of the IDW run, there was kind of like continuity issues and colorist weird things going on with that, and yeah, it was just off. And so I was nervous to when they started, you know, at IDW, that it would all kind of be a bit middle of the road or worse. But this was great. This is properly back to form. This was really fun. You know, it brought back a classic Usagi villain, Jay. Still kept Ukichi. I can never pronounce it right, whoever it is. How do you pronounce it, Chris? Do you pronounce him?
I think probably the same as you. I've never actually thought about it. I just read the word. It's like Hermione when you read that as a kid. Like, I'm like, Hermione, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. I always realize how wrong I say stuff when it comes out loud, but in my head it makes perfect sense. But
you just kind of skim over it when you're reading it. It's fine.
Yeah, this is all kind of set in the snowy mountains around Japan, and they are kind of coming off fighting off a load of bad guys in the previous story arc. But again, outside of Ukichi being there, this is probably a great place to jump in, really. You know, you will get everything you need. The first issue doesn't really give you a lot of context to who the people are, but the second one does. So again, if you read like this as a trade, by the end of it, you would know, you know, who Usagi is, who his cousin is, etc., etc. And again, it just got loads of lovely demons in the mountains fighting, and then it's all building towards a big fight off on a snowy, icy river against Jay, which is just great. And you get some... I super enjoyed. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it loads, to be fair. And it was lovely to see the Dark Horse logo back on Usagi as well, because I am a sucker for Dark Horse, and I didn't quite like IDW's
I thought the
logo on Usagi's book.
I thought the spine didn't matter, Chris.
The spine doesn't. The publisher does, though, for some reason.
So, is Santa in this?
What?
Is Santa in this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's a Christmas book, official.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, he's right there. Hey. Hey.
Are you pointing at Jay? Jay's in his black and white Santa.
Yeah, behind him. Behind him.
Behind the tree.
If that's not a Christmas book, look at all the trees and snow.
to be fair, I was quite vague in my explanation of festive books. It doesn't have to have Santa or Bear and Christmas. Like Home Alone, for example, is a Christmas movie, but it's not really a Christmas movie, really. It may happen at Christmas, but it's like the idea of like coming to the winter months and you have a evening to yourself and you want to light the fire and have a cup of hot chocolate and you want to read a book. What would you go to? What's the one that gets you in that kind of mood? And that might be the one that does it.
It definitely feels wintry and warm, which is what Christmas is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So do you have more? Or is that your?
No, I refuse to prepare excessively.
That's like me. Right, we'll go in reverse order. So, Island G, do you have anything that say you would like to read at this kind of time of year, or reread, or something you just recommend that people could
Well, I mean, the one we've all read is this, but like other than that, I was racking my head around all the books I've got that actually relate to Christmas, and the only other one I could think of is Happy, which is another Grant Morrison book.
Yeah.
It's not the upbeat and happy. It's quite a dark kind of book, but it does have that little blue. Is it sort of like a donkey ghost type thing or something that kind of floats over him?
Donkey ghost, yeah. What was he called?
It's like a little horse or something, right?
It was called Happy, wasn't it?
Yeah, called Happy. Yeah.
Or was he called Happy? I can't remember. I've watched the show.
No. The thing's called Happy. Like he's tripping and he's seeing this little blue thing.
Imagine Grant Morrison writing a book about a character tripping.
There was also a TV show. They've done 2 seasons. They've done one where they went into Easter, I think, which was not in the comic, but the comic's great.
Yeah, it's something I actually kept meaning to pick up, to be fair, because I enjoyed the TV show that much. It was completely strange and batshit crazy, but when you realise it was created by Grant Morrison, you're like, oh yeah, I understand it now. So there's a book I keep meaning to pick up at some point.
That's the only one I could think of, and then maybe there's one that's been done but I haven't read yet, which is the Dan Mora. It's like Batman Silent Night or something. It's coming out in the next month or so, I think, as a trade.
Yeah.
But it's a year old. It's just coming out as a trade now.
I thought it was a single issue just coming out, but
there's a sequel coming out.
They're starting a new run, but the previous run was done in 23, and they're bringing out the trade now, like in the next month.
That's good, because this is why I do this show, Chris, by the way, because I struggle to kind of remember stuff, and when I do this show and people make recommendations of books to get or look at, that's why I do it for. It's my form of research. So, what was it called, Helen G? Sorry?
It's called Silent Night, Batman and Santa Silent Night.
Let's check that out.
And it's basically apparently Batman always knew about Santa.
But the thing is, you said it's Dan Moore, who obviously...
Dan Moore's the artist on it.
It's Dan Mora. What do you need to say?
So it's basically Klaus in DC.
Yeah. Which is funny, because Klaus was basically Batman. Really. Yeah. He's sitting over the rooftops and all the rest of it. So it
makes sense that Santa would have trained Batman, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Chris, you had Klaus and one which I thought the other Chris might have included. It was the Hellboy book.
When you went in reverse order, I was a bit worried I was going to have nothing when it got to me. And then I'd be like, something with snow. Yeah. Klaus, that was the obvious one, which I think everyone's read at this point. The other one was the one-shot issue of Hellboy. I'm definitely going to pronounce it wrong. Krampusnacht? It's about Krampus. He basically is summoned by Krampus because Krampus wants to die and be sent back to hell because he's sick and tired of living on Earth. And he's spent hundreds of years killing children and collecting their bones. And so Hellboy obliges. And it's a real short, sweet story. Great artwork, good action, good fight scenes. Yeah, it's a nice, quick read.
Does Mike Mignola, does he do all the art for Hellboy? No.
I think for the main story stuff he did, but a lot of these spin-offs and one-shots and all the yearly collected things, he's got a whole team of people now that he works with. I think he signs off on everything, but this one, I don't think this was drawn by him. I think it was just.
I think it's very similar to Harrow County, where it's like a universe now.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the documentary that they did. I know you've watched it, Chris, but they kind of talk a lot about the process of working with him, and he's got this team, and he has final say on everything, and kind of oversees all of it.
See that documentary? Where was it streaming? I couldn't find it.
Apple TV, I think, just Apple TV for the UK.
It wasn't on my very legal Fire Stick. I couldn't find it. I'm going to try and hunt that down somehow.
Apple gets some pretty niche stuff that's pretty good, though. I just watched Silo fairly recently. It's so good.
That's based on a trilogy of books, isn't it, Silo? I think there's...
Yeah, and they've changed it quite a bit, but yeah.
It's on my list to watch at some point. Maybe by 2026, because I'll be busy reading all next year, so I won't be able to watch.
This is why I can't watch half the Marvel stuff, because I just don't have the time.
The thing with the Marvel stuff, you kind of have to
I just never really started with it, so because I never started, I don't feel the need, so I can kind of just watch other random things.
But
I watch the movies, but I don't bother with it.
There's certain ones like Daredevil's coming out Born Again. I think, is it this year or is it in the next year?
Start of next year, like February, I think.
I will 100% be watching that because I think it's gonna be fantastic.
I mean, that's different. It's kind of like this, like the CW universe of Marvel. Like I did watch that
on the Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't mess it up because the Netflix stuff was fantastic, and I hope they don't they don't mess it up. I'm trying to think. Does Daredevil not have a Christmas story? I have it in my head he does for some reason. I can't think.
He does. I have a vivid memory of him putting on a Christmas hat and delivering presents. So I've read it somewhere, but I can't remember.
I mean, I feel like it happens in almost every book. I can picture one.
No, I remember. He does. Did you get
it? I knew he did. I just couldn't think what it was.
When I think like DC, I think Batman Noel and stuff like that when it comes to Christmas stuff.
Yeah, the thing is, Batman Noel is one that I read as well for the book club, and I remember art-wise, it was Lee Bermejo was the artist. It looked fantastic. And obviously, the story it's a story that's well told multiple times, whatever. But it didn't really land with me. I don't think it's not something I've ever wanted to read.
Standalone Christmas stuff is just not. I think Klaus.
There's not much. There's not much, is it?
Yeah.
And Klaus is something that's a bit of a special level, isn't it?
That's the standout. I love Klaus. That I mean, all three books together. To be fair, you obviously have the collection there, G. So it's like
I still have the individual hardcovers. I haven't sold them yet.
But the thing is, like, I will still read them, even though they're not on the same, quality as the first original story.
Even a bad Klaus story is better than another bad Christmas story. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. Show us.
Look at that cover. Nice.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And I like all the little references in the Klaus stories as well, like the whole kind of like PepsiCo kind of like piss take. I like all the little like history things they've kind of hidden there as well within Britain.
Yeah. Klaus is one I do actually read every year. Is that Santa? That's Bullseye, isn't it? Oh, right.
Yeah. So this is Mark Waid and Chris Samney, but it's Marcus Martin that was on this. And I don't think he did this. It was another artist, actually. But either way, it was a great story. I think it was a 2-issue arc. The Daredevil was giving gifts to the blind school that he supports. And they're on Christmas, and they're going on a Christmas trip, and the bus crashes. And then he's injured. In the bus crash. And basically, the whole story is like the group of kids and him have got to kind of find their way through this wintry kind of storm. All of them blind, and they're all trying to him injured, and him like relying on the kids to help him. It's really good, but that's a proper Christmas story. That is, that's like Christmas carols and all that shit.
You're saying Marcos Martins reminded me of Friday. That was a Christmas thing.
That was a Christmas thing.
And that was good. Yeah, except I didn't love the end, but pretty much the majority of it was good. And yeah, Christmas was kind of an important part of it because the whole present setup, but it's otherwise just classic. Yeah.
I read the first book of it. Is there 3 in total?
Yeah.
3? Yeah. And they're kind of digest size. I actually have the first one. And I keep meaning to pick that up, to be fair.
Again, I was always waiting for them to bring out a complete.
They are. Ed Brubaker has said that's where he's coming. It's just a case.
I just want my deluxes. I don't want these wee digest books.
Yeah, see, I've got them all digitally. I've not bothered with the collections. Like, gee, I'm waiting for the hardcover.
Yeah,
but I think I've read 2 of them so far. I think I've done volume 2.
Yeah. The other book that me and Martin liked last year. Last year, the year before.
Yeah.
Remember the book called The Naughty List?
Yes. That was a good read.
I can't remember who was the writer at the minute. Nick Santora or something, I think it was. But it started off so well, and then it ended.
Literally
Just like that. It
off a cliff, ended.
Like, it was so good up to that point, but then that was the end. It's like, well, how long? You haven't given us the story. Nothing's happened. So it was something on the lines. There was like a bad elf and a good elf and all these different people. And did they hijack the naughty list or something? Or
yeah,
I can't remember what it was now, but it was so good because this guy who was kind of burdened with being Santa Claus and almost the point he didn't like it. I remember there was a scene where he was like taking a shit down someone's chimney because he was just fed up with that person or whatever. And it's just like, it was so kind of it kind of reminded me of I was going to say sex criminals, but without that level of vulgar references or whatever. But it's just kind of a bit of comedy, but with Santa, and he was drinking and smoking and was fed up and all the rest of it. But he it just ended. Like, we didn't get the full story. And I remember I messaged the guy who was the artist. I think it was Lee Ferguson, they call him.
That's it.
Like,
yeah.
When's the next issue coming out? And it's like, oh, it's not. We're done. I'm like, you didn't finish the story, because I got to the point where I think he was arrested in jail, or he was put in jail, and then he got freed by his wee elf friend, and then the elf got shot in the head or something, or got killed.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It just ended. And we're like, how long? You haven't completed your mission or whatever you're trying to do, whatever. But it's so much promise. It just didn't finish. I was so gutted about it.
At the time, we actually said it would have been one of those worthy stories to have read.
Yeah.
Alongside Clouds at Christmas.
Close level, without like kind of the feels and stuff, but it was that kind of level.
Until it got to the end.
So disappointing. Like I say, it wasn't like a bad ending. It's not an ending. It didn't end.
I feel like there's so many indie books like that just cut off. It's almost like their budget just got stripped.
That's what it's like. It's like they've just moved on to different projects. They don't care about this one anymore.
If the sales aren't good enough, right? Like,
that's maybe
no
what
incentive to keep going. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I find saying, like, when it comes to Christmas or like any kind of holiday, it's hard to kind of, like, do you release them in December, carry into like March, April time? Do you release them in the summer to hope to end before Christmas? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So for single issues, I almost feel like you can't use the sales, because if you have like a graphic novel, that will probably sell more likely at the time of year you're aiming for, rather than the single issues that might start 6 months earlier or 6 months later.
Or maybe this is what DC are doing with Batman Santa Silent Night, because the singles all came out November, December last year, but they've held off the trade till
now. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Well, it's like Klaus was single issues once a year.
Because they weren't. They weren't. What do you mean? Like, there were 6 issues in the main story?
As in, like, the first story was like 3 issues. One released November one year, one released November the next year, one released November the following year. And that completed the story.
I assumed it was always an OGN.
No.
Oh, well.
I knew it was singles.
Shit.
Yeah.
I knew it was singles, but I didn't realise it was released like that.
Mm-hmm. Same, yeah.
Imagine waiting 3 years.
That's why the later stories are much shorter. They're just like one-shots.
Okay. So they're just like... I hope he goes back to revisit Klaus, but not on a one-shot story. Give us another, because wasn't there something about the... I was like a War of the Moon or something. What was it? Can you remember, Martin? Like,
I remember exactly what
Lunar
War. I remember the name.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, like, give us that story, please. Like, you reference it in each one of your books. Just give us that story.
Yeah, especially since Dan is so much more experienced in interior art at this point. It'd be amazing to see what he could do.
He's just too busy at DC, I suppose, isn't he? He's one of the main men now.
Well, yeah, but he still goes back to Boom for covers and Power Rangers stuff.
He's a busy man.
He finds the time. He always finds the time. Like,
He's a busy man. He's on a lot of things, isn't he? Let's be honest.
I think Grant Morrison, he doesn't really write comics.
Is he not on Batman next as well?
He's on No Superman.
Superman, Justice League.
I don't know if it's Action Comics or if it's Superman.
He's doing the Justice League Unlimited.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because he's moving with Mark Waid,
which is like his biggest title yet.
I sold him 2 other Christmas books.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
you gonna get them?
I thought of, I just just
I have not read that.
That's where I went when I turned the screen off. I thought I didn't do enough research and hard work, so I thought I'd do 2 more just to show that I am committed to this stream.
I'm glad we guilted you into it.
There we go. This Foregathered on Christmas Eve came out like last year, I think, and it's only like 60 pages or so. It's 4 ghost stories about Christmas Eve because it's following in this amazing tradition, really. The tradition that birthed Frankenstein, because how Frankenstein came to be is like a few famous authors were all gathered in a space and they all challenged each other to come up with the best ghost story they could. And Mary Shelley kind of came up with Frankenstein. And this is kind of coming up with that tradition. So it starts off with the 4 creators. So Eric Powell, Becky Coolan, Mike Mignola, and James Harran. Couldn't have said that more Welsh then. And hello. And so they all come around to Eric Powell's house and they basically start telling ghost stories. But the good thing is each of the like short stories are done in the style of the particular artist. So James Harran does one story, Eric Powell does one story, then Becky Coolan does another.
So it kind of reads like the Jim Henderson books where you've got like the intro and then the stories.
Yeah, but it's really nice. Like I bought it mainly because I couldn't allow Mike Mignola art to not be in existence without me buying it. So I was like, I gotta kind of get that. And so
it was more Powell's name that got my eye on it.
What?
It's more Eric Powell's name that got my attention. Yeah.
Powell does the artwork. He writes James Harran's story and he does the artwork for the intro and all the little in-between bits when they go back to the main room to talk about it. And then it finishes with his story as well. But Mike Mignola does a very honest version of the Jabberwocky story from, what's his face? The Lewis Carroll. And so...
You say Jabberwocky, I think of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, basically. Lewis Carroll, all that. And it's written in that same way. But the Eric Powell art is amazing and wonderful. He's such a good artist. I gotta start picking up the Goon. I gotta get into that.
I keep meaning to.
Keep meaning to as well. I gotta get on that. And then the other one was I realized that one of the funnest Christmas stories of Batman is the Batman Tales of the Dark Knight by Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb, when they do their version of A Christmas Carol. You must have read this.
Sure. I haven't read that. No, the only stuff I read is the long Halloween. I've never read the other stuff.
Well, it's called Madness. It is. Oh no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not called Madness. That's the wrong one. I've stopped on. Madness is the Ghosts is called, and it's got a great cover. Got that cover. That's awesome.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
This is like the perfect Halloween Christmas mashup. How am I only now getting to this point?
Imagine if you took your research seriously then, and you had this.
Let's all just pretend that I didn't say any of what I just said. The perfect Halloween Christmas mashup book, though, Phil, is the Long Halloween version. No, I'll do it again.
You nailed it.
Nailed it. But this is Tim Sale's art is super good, even though it's early on and he's kind of like putting it down. But basically, I'll turn to the page now where let me get to the page where basically it's ghosts, and so he's visited by 3 ghosts of a you see that? So it's all that version of A Christmas Carol, but it's done in Bruce Wayne style, and the Joker is there and stuff like that, and it's really fun. But that's a proper fun like little take on a classic Christmas story, really. From 1995. I'm finished now.
Okay.
You're too late. You're too slow.
You've got me thinking if there's Christmas stories in the Terry Moore stuff. There's a lot of snowy scenes, but I can't think if there's any Christmas sequences.
No. Serial sounded similar though, didn't it, to the book you were describing, Chris, in terms of the Beneath the Trees book with the anthropomorphic characters about the
Where
serial
serial killers hunting a different serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a
it
similar
sounded
kind of
very
idea.
similar to Terry Moore serial.
Oh, I've not read. I've got it. I've
Yeah.
not read it. I'm currently working through Rachel Rising.
I do wonder though, with that like through between Beneath the Trees thing, like if she got the serial killer, how would that not? Would the police not still be searching for him, or would she be like handing him over?
You got to read it. You got to know what's going on. It's
like, I just don't figure.
Like
when you said that, I was just like, how can her finding the serial killer stop the police looking for the serial killer? Like logically, that doesn't make sense.
Unless
Because the killer's dead, then.
Killer somewhere else.
Well, yeah, he's dead, but they're still trying to find out who did it. They don't know he's dead. You know, if she's buried the serial killer, that's just another person dead.
I get what you're saying, and like as an approach of logic from her right out the gate, wasn't the right call.
Just my thoughts.
It gets covered. It gets covered.
I will get around to reading it. I just,
I think it's one of those books now that it's so kind of it's spoken quite highly of that I think we all at some point have to read it. I know I've got it. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, I want the hype to die down a bit. I always enjoy
just jump on the bandwagon. Like
a lot of these books remind me of the Happy Treehouse Friends. If anyone ever watched that,
I loved that. Happy Treehouse Friends is fantastic. I loved it. Do you know? I mean, these are all. I don't know how old everyone is, but I'm guessing we're all around the same kind of age. Happy Tree Friends? No.
I'm aware. Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of it, but
it was crazy. I always remember there was like a soldier guy with like PTSD, and like he would just like kill everybody. It was just
I didn't.
It's just outright massacre with like a kiddie theme tune, and it was brilliant.
I actually remember. I'm not going to do it now, but I have the theme tune in my head. It's always been ingrained into my head, like the kind of like squeaky little voice. You know, I'm not going to do it obviously, but no, it's ridiculous, Chris. It's only like 5.
There was like box sets of it. It was it was popular.
It came out at a time where I was already mature. I was like,
no, I definitely wasn't
playing like Pokemon Yellow and stuff like that. So it was like too mature.
Too mature.
Have
you ever hit that point? Right. So there's 3 people still watching, so we haven't scared everyone away. So I always try to get 2 hours. So we're obviously at the 2-hour mark now, but we're not quite finished because I just, as I always do, I just go through what's coming out in the month ahead. And Chris, I did ask for some, to have a look ahead yourself to see what's coming out. I've got some books written down from Highland J and from Chris from Indie Comics Corner, not from Chris off my shelves.
I didn't look.
Or from
I didn't look. I refused.
But Martin, I do notice next week is more of those DC Finest books.
Yeah,
this is the first wave of DC Finest. This is the first lot. So
it should be burned. That should be right on the top of the pile of book burning. Combining that with that, my God.
Do you not think though that if they didn't bundle it with
it would never sell year 2.
Year 1, you wouldn't sell it, so they've had to do it.
Why do they need to sell it? Why can't they just put year 1 in? It's because
save the paper.
It's disgraceful.
I'm still going to buy it.
You should rip off the book out if you're going to buy it.
I've actually never read year 2.
It's awful.
Yeah, I think it's it's the same thing with what's the sequel to Dark Knight Returns?
Strikes Back.
Strikes Again.
Yeah, I've never read it because I just don't want to, and that's why I've never bought the Absolute, because I just don't want to own it, because I don't want to star such a.
But when you're short of space, you don't want to force this extra stuff. Like, it's one of those things that always bugged me with the Power Rangers books being like 50% art in the back. It's not actually like book. I'm like, I could have so many more books on my shelf.
I agree.
Like, I don't need half a book of covers, or a volume 2 that I don't want to read.
I'm not a massive fan of like back matter, like unless it's something like the creative process. I do obviously appreciate if like here's the first sketch of a character and maybe they do like 3 or 4 different iterations. I don't mind that, but covers I'm not so fussed on.
I feel like it's just a way to bulk up the price. Like if they were just doing it for people who want it, they could do an art book. They could have a separate art book. Like people would buy it if they want it. But when I can't even take art out the book to put on a wall or something, it's useless to me. Like
See, I like the covers as I'm going through the book, like when where it separates issue to
In
issue.
between the
I
issues,
like my covers,
yeah.
But I don't mind a little bit extra at the back. But when you get some books and it's literally like a centimeter
One of the
plus,
Power Rangers books is like half the book.
Yeah, that's just
It's
ridiculous.
mental.
Sorry, just before we go ahead, before we go into the month ahead, I've just remembered of one book that I was going to say your Discord name or not. It's what's the girl's name on Instagram? I know we're in our Discord name, but I don't want to say it out loud. We're in our group. She recommended the Deviant, which I think is James Tinian. I think does that.
Yeah.
And it's apparently meant to be a good mashup of kind of spooky Christmas themed story. Her name on Instagram completely escapes me now. It's Wait something, but I can't remember what it is. Just 2 seconds.
Wait, I did not ask for this.
Yeah, that's the one. Well done. Thank you for bailing out. Yes. So she has recommended that the Deviant, and I think it's finished now. I think there's 2 trade paperback volumes. The first one's definitely out at the minute. I don't know when the second one's due, but supposedly it's a good mashup of both horror and kind of festive reading. But moving ahead again for what's coming out, Martin, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. I think you're picking this up too.
Yeah, I'll get that definitely.
And there's another one that must be the Elseworlds coming back. Elseworlds Batman. So they're bringing stuff
they're
back.
reprinting them all, aren't they? They're reprinting all the original trade paperbacks now. So it's back around.
One GAG had as Primer, Clashing Colors. What's this?
Yeah, so I read the first book a good year or so back now, and it's one of these sort of like digest style books, and it was a completely new hero. So basically, it's this sort of orphan girl gets adopted and into this new family, and her mum is part of a sort of like secret agency, and she basically finds these paints, and the paints allow her to get like different powers. Basically, whichever paint she puts on allows her different powers, and she kind of becomes this hero. I don't want to spoil any more than that for the first volume for those who kind of want to read it, but this volume takes her into DC Universe proper, and she kind of has a team up with the Teen Titans.
Okay, cool. I like the Teen Titans, to be fair.
Yep.
So yeah, looking forward to it.
The Woods is something that I need to look at more because I hear people. It seems to be quite like under the radar in terms of James Tinian work, but I think the people who read it again speak quite highly of it. Have you ever read?
It's one I held off because it was only paperbacks, but now that they're doing a complete.
Are you going to go for the waste of money slipcase edition, or else the waste of money reserve slipcase edition?
No, I'll just do the standard deluxe hardcover.
Yeah, there's 3 versions there.
I know. It's, I don't know what's this one. Why is it the 10th anniversary? Surely, it's the 10th anniversary for
a direct reserve slipcase. Right. So do you get 2 slipcase? One.
There might be like a DM slipcase. Yeah, who knows?
Scroll back up anyway. The Steve Dillon, Jason Aaron Punisher run is interesting as well. I think that's been out of print for a bit. I'm always on the fence about kind of Punisher, but Punisher, Max, and a lot of stuff that Steve Dillon, Garth Ennis, and Jason Aaron did is really good with Punisher. But I just haven't got around to picking it up in absolute form.
It's usually a lot of people rave about the Punisher Max stuff, doesn't they? Whenever you talk about Punisher, it's the Max stuff everyone says.
But it's always Garth Ennis stuff they talk about. I couldn't tell you anything about the Jason Aaron stuff. But you're saying, Chris, it's just
this is supposed to be really good. Yeah.
I've heard good stuff. The Garth Ennis stuff was really good. But I'm not
I don't think I've read anything Jason Aaron that I haven't enjoyed.
I don't think I enjoyed Southern Bastards that much. I enjoyed the first volume, but the second volume was a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's like what I mean is like it might not be amazing, but I never like walked away from one of his books thinking, "Oh, this is terrible."
No, me either. I've never thought that either. Yeah. Oh, and there's a DM version of it there as well.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're doing that Cyberpunk as a trade paperback.
There is a paperback.
I'm surprised they're doing that. I'm surprised they wouldn't stick just to the hardcover. But
yeah, because it's so cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it wasn't expensive, was it?
It was like 25-30 quid or something.
Do love that.
For the
hardcover for the original library edition.
Unless maybe that's like that's $30 for a trade paperback. It must be like a complete trade paperback, if you know what I mean. Like
no, I think it's got the same stuff.
I think it'll just be a paperback of the hardcover, standard sized, and it'll probably end up being like 20-25 quid.
That's a shame.
I'll stick with my library edition. Do love those books.
Oh, the Goon's being reprinted for us all anyway.
They're good.
Nice.
So this will come back to the original stuff, is it? A bunch of old crap omnibus.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's like 3 to 5 or 6 volumes of them. They got the hardcover versions are a bit difficult, but the paperbacks are like most Dark Horse paperbacks, you know, solid.
And then looks like all those Dynamite Disney books are getting trades.
Yeah, I like the look of them. I think I might pick some up. I don't know if they're meant to be dark. I don't think they are, but you know, I'm sure
They're mostly villain characters, I think, but not necessarily dark.
Klaus paperback as well coming in.
They're doubling down on Klaus, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
There you are, Dark Horse. What's Returnal, Chris? You're a Dark Horse guy.
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
Returnal. It's like a video game, like a third-person shooting procedural generation roguelike video game.
See, you should have asked the youthful Chris, not the old Chris. The youthful one. He's down with the kids.
You got to be careful. That's how you're going to start distinguishing us here.
I'm not going any further here because we're going into the Panini stuff, and then that old manga stuff. You don't know when really reads that, Chris.
Yeah. The complete Tardy play, I'll probably grab that. That's a collection of 3 hardbacks by Rene Tardy about this documenting his father's being captured as a POW, then him coming out, and then Tardy's life in later life. So it's similar in some ways, I suppose, to Mouse, but it obviously is not anthropomorphic, but it's telling that World War story, but through the relationship of father and son, which is always an interesting dynamic because you get that 2-generational thing of how it affects other generations. So I've been meaning to read that for years, but if you say I'll be handy.
Whenever you mentioned that, I was pretty certain you've done a video in this, but then I remember you did do a video for the what's coming at the end of the year, and I think this made that list.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like see manga. This is the thing. Like I get so lost. Like I'm sure there's obviously good stuff, but surely all this kind of I don't know teenagey girl stuff. It's not really for us.
It's slice of life stuff, isn't it? That's the stuff I've got no time for. It's
really difficult as well for manga, I think, because you got to see these books in the same way as like an issue of the Bee Noise on the shelf in Britain. These are mass-produced books. They're chunkier, but they still go in along the same lines of kind of, you know, weekly, bi-weekly publications for the masses. So there's going to be tons of stuff that's not really going to be up to your standards or up to your interests at all. But then again, how often do you go to like Smith's and pick up a load of, you know?
Well, that's the thing. If you think of it as like a single issue, like you don't look at every single issue that comes out each week. You only look for the ones that you're interested in.
Yeah.
So like when I come to manga, there's maybe like 4 or 5 series right now that I'm reading, and I look for the next volume. But like other than that,
it's such
to the week of the 13th of November, the second week of November, Transformers Volume 2. I did enjoy the first volume of it. Daniel Warren Johnson and
that's a great cover.
Yeah, this year. I want her name Alita. Is that her name? Like the character?
I don't know. Is that Triceratops or something? It looks pretty badass.
I don't want to click into it because I'll lose my I'll lose my fingers if I click into it. The thing is, it's not art by Daniel Warren Johnson for the second volume. It is Jorge Corona. Funny enough, still good. It's just not the same Daniel Warren Johnson art.
Thin legs.
I'm waiting for the hardcover now.
The robots, or they're not robots, I suppose, but
now they've announced all the hardcovers for Transformers, and
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
So I'm on to them.
Local Man I've actually really enjoyed as well. Actually, I read the first 2 volumes recently. It's a super throwback to like old school Image, but with like a crime noir take. Like it's like 2 art styles. It goes back and forth.
Is that the Stray Dogs artist, isn't it? Tony Fleece or Flex? Is that right?
I think that I think they're working on
possibly
it
it's
together.
Tim
Same guy.
Seeley and someone else. Yeah, maybe that is the other creator. But there's like two art styles, and basically one looks like absolute classic sort of Wildcats image, and one looks like sort of like Brubaker crime noir type stuff, and it kind of goes between the two, and it's really adult, but it's really well done.
They just announced the deluxe as well for that, coming out about summer next year.
Oh, nice.
You went past Black
Scroll,
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta get
Does
Black
that mean
Sad.
we've got a
That'll
hardcover
be
on
the
the way
next
that
one.
they completed that story as well?
Well, I
two
think
halves.
there's going to be certainly probably a hardcover collection, or maybe even like another annoying trade paperback collection. But
Another
they certainly going
softback
to bring
collection,
them
yeah.
together, because there's a few
Yeah.
really short. Like this is another 60 pages. It is in hardcover, they thin hardbacks, but
Yeah.
I
It's only
think
half
they'd
of
be
a
missing
story.
the trick if they it is 100%. I think it was just a case of like they had this story, they want to get it out, because they traditionally have been releasing like 60 to 70 album style European album size format books, that they just brought it out in two parts like that. You know, it is weird because all the other Dark Horse stories have been like 60, 70 pages done. But having them spread out, it did affect the story. But I'll obviously reread one and then reread that one. But that's
I just feel like they would have been better doing two paperbacks and then making it hardcover once they had the complete story.
Probably. But they go in with tradition in the European type of markets that they're in are that.
Well, yeah, I mean, traditional print is always you do hard and then you go down to the soft cover
Yeah.
to sell off. Yeah. It's like the reverse of how comics does it.
See, wasn't it a while ago? The first part one came out.
It was just over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like a yearly release. Like, what's that other French book? I forget what it is. Castle in the Sky or something.
In the Sky, yeah. Castle in the Sky is like 3 volumes behind now, though, which is a bit annoying. There's actually, they've just announced another volume in French, and yeah, that would mean that they're on volume 7 or 8 and we're on 4.
Oh, really? I didn't realize we were so far behind. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I have no idea. But
I just kind of accepted that with manga and European books. I'm always behind.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never read Black Sad in my life. Should I?
It's really good. It's really
it's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
This one's caught my eye, Traveling to Mars, because I like sci-fi. It's an Eisner winner. I quite like Mark Russell, and it's a Blaze Comics, which is quite, in my opinion, the one stuff I read of Blaze. They've all been quite good recently. I can't tell you what the story's about, obviously, but that's something I'm looking at. And if it wins awards, surely it must be good. I know, surely it must be.
I noticed the X-Men manga is coming in as well, following the Spider-Man manga. So
I never picked that up, nor did I pick up the Wolverine one.
There's Wolverine and there's Batman as well, yeah.
Yeah, there's DC are doing a lot more. There's the Joker one as well, isn't there? Joker manga and stuff. So
there's a Batman one as well. I'm tempted to pick it up because it's written by the people that write do Ultraman.
Like there's ones that aren't even made by Marvel or DC. They're like licensed out and done by the manga companies.
Wow.
G had Sunstone Book 3 hardcover.
I did. I love Sunstone. Like, I know it's one of those like controversial books because it's about BDSM lesbians, but it's an awesome story. It's about friendship and geekery more than anything else. Like, if you imagine like two friends sitting in a room kind of discussing D&D or something, like it's the same thing, but they're just talking about BDSM elements and having a laugh about it. The first 2 volumes is basically one of the characters telling the story of how the two of them got together. And this volume is about the girl that she got with and her original partner kind of story, I believe.
I'm getting Snot Girl vibes from this book.
Oh, don't.
It's no, I mean, it's Sedgwick. It's Sedgwick who does all your Harleen and all that stuff.
Oh, is
his
it?
art is amazing.
Oh, okay.
He writes and draws the whole thing. This is his baby.
It's a lovely cover.
Sorry, Connie, I missed your comment there. The Winx
Like
Club.
it's very, very adult, and it does get really kind of like soppy at times, you know. But I honestly would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, I enjoyed Sunstone. It was a good book.
Sorry, Connie, there said about a book that I didn't see your comments, so I've obviously moved on. But again, I don't want to go back because just for some reason I hit back. It just removes my filters. Yeah, I don't want to lose it. So I'm sure it was great, whatever it was.
You think
what's this here, Martin? The Green Lantern book, because it says
the
Raids of the Red Lanterns, but
this is just the trade paperbacks of the Jeff Johns run.
But
so there's 3 omnibuses that cover the Jeff Johns run,
okay.
which leads up to sort of Blackest Night. So this is New 52.
Because they're doing the Red Lantern omnibus. I just wonder, is this going to be part of it as well? Or is that
no, this is New 52. The Red Lanterns one is the New 52 run of the Red Lanterns series. But if you pick up the Jeff
with
Johns
the Green
books,
Lanterns, it kind of read all the way through, like before to into New 52 was all the same run.
If I wouldn't recommend the trade, mate. I'd probably, if you're going to get anything, go for the 3 Omnis by Jeff Johns.
Yeah,
because that just pretty much is the whole story there, and that leads you right up to New 52. So it's.
It depends just how much you want to delve in. I think I've only personally read very small amounts of Green Lantern or the Core. I've only really read Sinestro and the Red Lanterns, and it was totally fine without all the backstory. So it's up to you how far you want to delve in.
Yeah. So I'm all in, so I'll go for pretty much everything.
I mean, I've bought the first Core Omnibus. I just haven't read it yet.
Moving into the 20th of November, so no one, which I don't know off the boy, but it's part of that massive first universe, which is like the Radiant Black stuff. Well, I know it's not.
Yeah.
Radiant Black's part of the massive first. So I keep meaning to pick them all up because it's like the idea of getting all the different kind of stories from within that universe. While it can, it's like if you want to go back and read X-Men, you can't just, you have to get it all, or you don't have to get it all, but you feel like you have to get it all. There's just so much of it where I feel like the massive first is something I can actually physically collect now and read and enjoy. So that's one thing I want to pick up. Again, I don't know. I think it's 10 issues in total, so surprised it's the first 5. I mean, it's the entire thing. It doesn't say volume 1.
I mean, I'm interested in reading all the stuff by him, but I'm not so interested in reading all the stuff that he's passed off to other people.
He done that. This one, I'm pretty certain, didn't he? Kyle Higgins, isn't that's his name?
So as long as it's Kyle's stuff,
I think Kyle done this. Yeah. The Sacrificers Volume 2. I would recommend. If you haven't read the first volume, I would recommend it.
Waiting for the big book. There will be inevitable.
Yeah. Again, it's one on my list ever since you first mentioned it, Phil.
Yeah,
it's just wait for a hardcover.
I'm the same thing. I probably won't pick this up. I might just wait for the big book coming as well. But it's the Rick Remender, the Giant Generator stuff. The first story, I'll tell you briefly, but not with spoilers. Also, like each of these kind of people within a family, they're sacrificed for the kind of the gods, so to speak. But the gods are like all the kind of they're all like fine dining and enjoying their parties and their elitism or whatever else. So they sacrifice like the working class kind of children.
It's Hunger Games.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Without them have to compete with one another.
Sure.
But when you find out what actually happens again, or happens to them, you're just
Rick Remender is somewhere right now going like it's not fucking fun to
Yeah, I don't want, yeah, but it's something
There's
I
only
recommend.
so many stories,
and it's really anthropomorphic animals and stuff too. So it's. I'll be honest. When I first got this, the first 2 issues or so, really enjoyed it. The middle kind of dried a little bit. I was like, I don't know if I'm sure about this, but the last 2 issues were phenomenal, and they're quite sad. So yeah, pick that up.
Yeah, it's
and you'll
on my list.
You'll be years for the big book though, because Rick's quite slow, isn't he, getting the books out?
Well, I mean, if he's in volume 2 now, it can't be too long for a volume 3. Like another year, maybe.
Yeah, but getting the big, he doesn't do them that often. That's the problem.
Like but they usually come out relatively quick after he finishes a run. It's more the old stuff doesn't get reprinted.
Well, even Deadly Class took a while to get the fourth book out, I think. Like after it finished all overall.
I bought most of these hardcovers within like 6 months of the run finishing.
Scalped is one that Chris has on his list. It's something I'm looking at. Not
such a good deal. I can't believe they're selling it at that price.
It's insane. Most places you can get
like you cannot get your hands on those hardcovers. They sell for hundreds of pounds. I sold my set for like twice what they were worth when I sold my set.
And they're selling it at
And they're selling it as I think a 3 omnibus set for like what is it like 75 quid each or something?
$75.
Two omnibus, like even better.
So it's going to be what 50, 57, 58, probably on
100 quid for a lot.
46 quid, I think, on pre-order on a
few sites. Less than 100 quid for the whole thing.
Yeah,
I can't believe
I'll
that,
be getting
honestly.
that, definitely, 100% getting that.
It's a bargain.
Martin, are you getting the Green Lantern Corp by
Yes.
Tomasi?
Yep. Yeah, that's gonna again, as Jay said, you haven't got to read the whole thing like with Green Lantern. It just depends on how deep you want to go in. But I've got the first volume. I'm going to get it to complete the series
because I think it's just 2 for core, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because I think this actually then crosses over into the new 52 for Green Lantern Corps. So.
There's one for Chris, Absolute Justice, or do you already have that?
No, I'm not getting that. No.
Do you not like Alex Ross's art? I don't know.
I don't mind Alex Ross's art, and I don't mind Paul Dini writing. It's Paul Dini writing that, isn't it? If memory serves.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And no, I just didn't like the story. I can remember reading it many, many years ago, and I just it was not that great.
As for pre-order for this question for Sculpt, I haven't got a pre-order, but I will always look on books, etc.
Speedy Hen
would probably have it now for pre-order.
£41.
I find Books Etc. and Speedy Hen are probably the cheapest as far as like postage and cheapest. You can't really pre-order with Forbidden Planet anymore, but they are the best delivery generally.
Yeah. The thing is, like I say, with books, they don't do a pre-order service. So, like me and Martin, for example, we're waiting on the
DC versus Marvel.
DC versus Marvel. That's the one to come into stock. We can get it everywhere else at the minute, but we like the books, etc. prices. So we just hold off until.
I used to always just create lists in Forbidden Planet, and then if the price was right, buy it from them. But if not, delete it off my list and buy it.
I used to pre-order loads in Forbidden Planet, but I cancelled loads, and then they deleted my account because they.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually make the pre-order. I would just have it on a list.
I do genuinely think though that Speedy Hen is the cheapest UK wise for Sculpt at the moment.
I've always
or
just
if
been
you
very
happen to buy
unlucky
from
with packaging.
Sci-Fi, just use the code Airwaves.
Yeah, but it's £54 even with 5% off. It's still not going to be £41, is it?
No, that's true.
I don't know how they do it if they just like buy in small amounts or whatever. But when their stocks come in, they go really quick and they're super cheap.
Yeah.
Gun Honey, if you like your kind of erotica stuff.
I love my erotica. So tell me more.
I read this in single issues. The first story, not this particular one, but the first volume. Not knowing what to expect.
It must have been difficult to read one-handed, though.
The problem is I can't reread it because the pages are all stuck together. So
I was about to ask though, like, is the art inside the book color like on the covers?
It's worse.
Or is it black and white?
I'll tell you. Okay, so there's a scene. It's about she's like a detective, like a secret agent detective kind of thing, and she's trying to solve a crime or a murder, and she's going into the depths of this kind of the underground to take this down type of thing. And there's a scene where she breaks in. She needs to break into a prison to kill somebody, and so she goes to the bar one night and meets the female prison guard, and has intercourse with her. But literally, like you're turning the page, and the next thing it's like a double page spread of her performing orally on this girl. But like the two pages are just right there, and you're thinking that's really graphic, really well drawn. I like how they got the detail in there. You know, it was full blown kind of everything.
Is it a color comic though, or is it black and white?
Oh no, it's color. It's
wow. Okay.
But
so it's a full color 2-page spread.
Yeah. But other than that, it was a genuinely good story. I quite like the story. I never followed through with the rest of it and picked it up because I just thought it's a bit too much, even for me. So, but
I mean, I've seen like Omnidog Jess buys them, but I've never actually
about them. Jess kind of likes that type of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Do you remember the Omnibrews? Omnibrews stream whenever if you've done like a super chat, they would get this like the girl with the French fries. Do you remember that one? No.
Oh, like years ago, yeah, I used to follow them. Yeah.
But they've stopped doing that now. They've
They used to say some things that got themselves very close to being in trouble. Yeah.
So Gun Honey is the perfect book for them, to be honest. But other than being a bit adult, it was quite an interesting story.
Nothing wrong with adult stories. I recommend Sunstone. Like,
well, I remember Sex Criminals had a lot of stuff. Obviously, whenever he would pleasure himself, he would freeze time, and same thing for her. Like, it's a really weird concept, but it was done a really humorous kind of way, wasn't it? All right. There was a BPRD book there, so I just kind of skipped over.
So see, Last Ronin has a book here that's just covers.
Yeah, it's weird.
But who's buying that?
No, but that's better than putting it in the back of the book, is what I'm saying. Like, they want to have it.
Yeah, it's a better. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But for $30 price point, no, you're right.
Well, if it brings down the price of the book by a tenner, then you've bought 3 20-quid books rather than 3 30-quid books, so you've got the money to buy the covers book.
Yeah, this is true. I'm sorry, I'm just skipping over manga because I don't know unless Chris, you see anything that jumps out.
Asadora Volume 8 is the only thing I'll be picking up from there. It's a little bit further up. It's Naoki Urasawa's current ongoing about a girl and a kaiju. It's really good. It's fun.
Well,
and it's not as kind of intense. Fun.
It just reminds me I've got to catch up on my Kaiju number 8 reading.
Yeah, Kaiju number 8. It's not finished yet, or is it still ongoing?
I'm just behind.
All right.
I can't get it down, but I got the Kaiju number 8.
A lot of time reading the Atom.
Yeah, you had it as a bargain, didn't you?
50p per book, yeah. We're up there. I'm actually going to sell them a thing, but I want to read them first. But they're physical, so by the end of 2025, they'll be read and sold.
50p purchase, £4 pick.
Yeah, but there's first 3 volumes, I think. So
I mean, sometimes certain like manga tankaban get rare, and then they can actually go up in value.
I'll just hold on. I'll hold fire for a couple of years. Right, so going to the last month of November. Hope I haven't skipped anything out. More DC finest, The Flash.
Yeah, yes to all of them, pretty much. Yes.
Tricia Junkyard Joe, which I've actually just read recently, the trade paperback. I recommend.
I don't think it's long enough for deluxe though. It's a great read, but I don't think it's long enough.
The Geiger stuff. Yeah, the Geiger kind of deluxe editions. They are quite thin. It's a 5 or 6 issue trade paperback, but like it's a really good story. It's a really good.
I love the story. The art's amazing. Like I've got it in trade, but I don't know if I could justify the space for deluxe hardcover for 5 issues.
Deluxe is bigger as well, isn't it? It's taller.
The giant generator sized.
Yeah, that's right.
It is a great cover.
They're like oversized.
Yeah.
There's a great Platoon homage cover of that that I could just saw. That's fab.
I mean, that might justify it if I can get it like library sized.
Yeah, they're bigger than an Omni size, like proper deluxe
cheap
size.
as well.
I wasn't aware of that because the art is amazing, and if I could get that, and I forget what the other one I just started reading,
Red Coat,
Exile or something.
Oh, Exodus.
Oh,
that looks excellent. Yeah.
If I could get that in like oversized art, that's amazing.
I love that whole kind of. It's not called Ghost Machine anymore. Sure, it's called something different.
It is Ghost Machine now. It was Mad Ghost before.
That's
the universe. Yeah. Everyone just calls it the Geiger universe, though.
Yeah, 100%. Geiger was fantastic. Have you all read Geiger, Chris and Martin?
No, I've had mixed relationships with Jeff Johns over the years. Yes.
Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah.
I don't like all these stuff, but I do like this stuff.
Yeah, the Geiger stuff's fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Junkyard Joe was really good. That's the only 2 I've read, to be fair. No, I've read the had like a Blizzard one or something, which wasn't as good.
The most recent one I've been reading in singles is the Exodus one, and it's really good.
It looks fantastic. Yeah. That's something.
It's quite dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It seems quite stupid to bring the Cult Deluxe version out and then bring a reprint of the trade paperback like less than a month after. That's a bit weird. Because the Cult was like never done in deluxe hardcover ever. It was always trade paperback or like the prestige single issues when it came out back in the day.
That's say Starlin. Is that Jim Starlin?
Yeah, Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrightson. It's a great Batman story.
I think what DC
there's
are
a
doing
lot-
at the moment is if they're selling where they're releasing standard hardcovers or deluxes, sometimes they're backing it up with the trade because not everybody goes for the hardcover. So I think they're just trying to give more options out there for the type of collectors.
That Death of Wolverine omnibus, I'll probably pick that up as well if you go slightly back up again. Just on, next to Darth Vader. That's basically the sort of like the Wolverine story before X-23 takes over as Wolverine.
Right.
So like they're hunting for what's going on with Wolverine, and there's all the different sort of like X characters. So you've got like Lady Deathstrike, and you've got like all the various.
I think I read that. Or no, sorry, it's not. Did they do something similar with the Return of Wolverine, like all these different random one-shot stories? And
they did a follow-up after Wolverine came back as well. Yeah,
Maybe
but this is more like the lead up to all new Wolverine than Logan story.
Right. Okay. JSA compendiums. That interesting. They're doing loads of compendiums recently, aren't they?
No, I'm not a compendium guy myself. To be fair, I
like the idea of them just because they're like easier to read, and they're cheaper. But they also annoy me because I have DMZ Compendium 1, and I can't get Compendium 2 anywhere. It's out of print. And when it comes back into print, it's going to have probably Vertigo label on the spine because it's a DC Black label.
Bird King Volume 3, it does my head, Crom, who is the artist on that, I think it looks like a really good book, but the continental versions of it, so the ones out in France and Spain and other places, are these beautiful kind of like well-designed like hardcovers, and we've only got like skinny trade paperbacks thus far, so I'm like refusing to buy it.
I've had the exact same. Yeah, you've seen it on Instagram. These amazing books, and I'm like,
I've even seen in some of it, not specifically that one, but I've even seen some of them because the European books are more square. They scale them down into a American paperback, so you get like a big sort of like wedge of white top and bottom of your page as well, and it's just like, what are you doing?
I know. But Bird King looks good, and Crom as an artist is really one to watch. I think he's got some power in him. He's a thought bubble.
Oh, is he? Oh.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about thought bubble, but we'll not because it'll be like 4 hours probably. Harrow County, Chris, is that something?
This is the Beast one. So this is the same size as the Hellboy Monster Edition and the Sin City, Big Damn Sin City. So typically, it's not a size that I like. A Big Damn Sim City is the one exception because you couldn't get that in library edition before they released the slipcase artist.
So it's a library-sized omnibus.
Basically, it's bringing all 4 library editions together in one book. Yeah. It's massive. Why not just reprint the library editions would be my argument, but
it's the type of book you don't put on your top shelf.
Yes, exactly.
I do have one more book on my list, but I haven't seen it so far, and it was one from Chris, Finland Saga, Volume 5.
Yeah, that's pre-ordered for me as well.
Yeah.
It is coming out that month sometime.
I do have to say, this site we're using, League of Comic Geeks, they're not always wholly accurate. I'll say that. So,
I've not read 3 yet.
I have book 1 and 3 because so I got book 1 with full intention of reading it because Chris speaks very highly of it, and then it was Marcus from Mad Dog posted like a deal on Amazon for like £20 for book 3, and I jumped at it. I'm just waiting for book 2 to hit that same price point before I dive into it, and then I got book 4.
See, I got book 1 initially because I think I'd seen Chris buying various versions of it, and I was like, I'll try this out. And to be honest, I struggled a little bit with the sort of like character story. There's a couple of like little jumps in the first volume, so I watched the manga, which filled in the anime, which filled in a lot of that for me for that sort of first book, and then I flew through the second volume, bought the third one, but I haven't actually read it yet.
Yeah, the first volume kind of starts off in England, then jumps back to that, tells the story of his father and his kids. So it was just a couple of his decisions weren't quite articulated as well as I would have liked. It is a bit weird, but the following volumes definitely fall more into a straightforward kind of narrative path. Actually, thinking about it now, yeah, the first volume is really bounces around compared to other volumes. But yeah, in general, they're great. And volume 5, I think, is the first week in November, I think. Or thereabouts.
And it's one of the only Viking
thought so,
stories
yeah.
I've read, like in a sort of comic format. So
Yeah.
It's a strange choice of colors for their actual books, because the first two are reddish, then there's two black,
they're doing 2 and 2 and
brown,
2. Yeah.
and then what's next? What are they trying to make as a whole? Like, what's their intention?
I genuinely think they go and color coded by the story arcs.
Okay.
So even though those stories are spreading over more than one books, volume 1 and 2 of the deluxe are more or less like one story arc, and then 3 and 4 another, and then so on and so forth. Really,
So like chapters, basically, aren't they?
Like eras of his life.
kind of.
Yeah.
Different parts of his life, like, because it mainly follows Thorfinn, and it kind of by the end of, like, so you basically got it'd be like 6 volumes by the end of volume 2 of the
I like that it's a bit different. Like, I think that a lot of the manga that's come out in the deluxes so far all look very samey. They're just like a leather thing with a name on it.
Yeah.
So doing like this different colors, quite cool. And like I was holding off for the Vagabond stuff because I didn't know if they're ever going to do one. And then I was like, if they do a hardcover, what if they get rid of the image on the spine, which I love? And they've decided to do that sort of like composite, like the image is on half the spine, and the words on the other half the spine. And I look forward to seeing how those come out as well. Just be a bit different.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them because it took me so much to get the collection complete.
I just sold my collection last week because I'm buying the.
Did you really?
I've opted in. Yeah.
Wow. How much did you get for it?
About $230 or so.
That's not bad. That's really good. Yeah, it's one of those things that I'll have to judge when it comes out, I think.
Anyway, let me end the stream. I'm sure we all still chat backstage. Again, I failed massively in my intent to get this under 2 hours.
We always do.
41. But listen, I enjoy this. We enjoy hanging out, and we're just talking comic books, and Chris is getting drunk on red wine. I've had a few beers, and we're just chilling out, having a bit of fun. And yeah, this is what we do. So hopefully we'll have another episode before the end of the year. But the reason why I did the kind of festive stuff now is because I don't know if we will. December's obviously very busy for everybody. But yeah, so anyone who's joined us tonight, thanks very much for joining us. Anyone who watches in the replay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Like I say, no bells and whistles here. I've no intro. We're just gonna say goodbye. See you later. Remember, use our 5% off at fire. Hand off my shelf.
Off my shelf. Off my shelf is better.
It is.